I'm going to say, well, let's do let's do the 146, 150 Park Street endorsed plans. And now, is there anything else we need on that? Because it sounds to me like those are the approved plans that we previously approved. And it now has all the changes that we went through for the parking and everything on it. It should be ready to go.
That is correct.
Okay, so we just need a vote to sign.
Just looks.
Okay. Pass that motion.
I have one ready.
Do you have one?
Yep.
Oh,
Yep,
okay.
here's-
Yeah, who did, thank you.
Chairman, I move that the Community Planning Commission vote to endorse the plans entitled Site Plan 1818 on Collins Senior Housing Facility, 146 to 150 Park Street, North Reading, Mass. 01864, dated August 23rd, 2022. Last revised August 28th, 2023. Drawn by Hayes Engineering, Inc.
Okay, I have a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion, and a second. Okay,
Roll call, right?
yeah, I have to say, it's going to be a roll call vote. So all in favor, please, let's say, Jeremiah.
Aye.
Okay, Dave,
Aye.
Jeff,
Aye.
myself, I, let the record show 4 in favor, no opposed. Yeah, I was gonna say.
Okay, good.
Well,
Good, Danielle, I just want to make sure it's park all set. Good.
Yeah, you guys just have to put your signatures on it when it's convenient.
So we'll do the minute and then go over there and sign it, or we can do that later.
okay, well, actually, I was gonna do, 210 Main Street.
Okay.
Just to, so he doesn't have to hang around.
Yep.
Hang around all night, wait for us, so that we work our way through some of these other things we can do every time. So, yes, good thing. So, yes, sir, you,
Charlie Watson, I'm a general contractor that applied for the permit to redo the face of the building at 210 Main Street. This was the material we were looking to use. It's like a veneer, looks like a vinyl siding. Veneer stone, it has a little bit of variation between each piece. There's 3 or 4 owners over there. One of them was talking about trying to make it look more like a castle. Their logo is actually just like this.
Yeah.
There's the app, I would ask if that's either in the realm of what you guys would accept. I have a rendering, I'm trying to keep it as tasteful as possible. I know it's right on Main Street.
right,
This rendering shows obviously loosely what the material will look like, and then there would be signage in the front. This door is gonna stay, and then they're gonna do just some general lighting for safety, nothing real fancy. I know there was another rendering that might have been the one I sent with the permit. That's not really what I plan on going for, but
Can you show us
What you have now?
Bring it up here. So. Charlie, what's your company? Your
Clinical Carpentry,
Pinnacle? Yeah.
right out of Norcam.
yeah.
I've seen it, so, yep.
So the only thing that doesn't show, there is a soffit currently, there's,
Yeah.
So show me, I'm not doing that.
Got the,
The thing,
yeah.
that's the one with the ramparts and everything.
I would say I don't have to. Okay. We got, that's what one of the owners was trying to go for.
Yeah.
Obviously, existing. So
Yeah. That's, I think, what we saw the last meeting. And I
I bet
think,
that it has the castle on top.
well, yeah, that's what this has right here, but I think Daniel sent that to us a week ago or whatever. So Daniel, you come, if you don't mind.
Let me
Yeah,
see.
Thank you. Daniel, you sent this
That one
one
had
to
signed.
us, or,
That was the one that's been permanized. So, but this is the one that
Got
you're looking at, is that right? This is the one?
This one, yeah.
That's, okay, so
There is a,
we're
there is
not.
a soffit here on the sign, so it would have a bump in it. But, yeah,
Is it gonna be,
it's the crenellations, which is the word that one.
these are called ramparts, it's like a castle, the castle has ramparts, that's what those are.
it's gonna have an awning on
I can make the
it?
term up.
No, no line, it's just this soffit, and then this will actually be built similar to that, where there's gonna be lit signage in the middle, but that's separate from my scope of works.
Are you letting it in for signage, or it just gets applied over the top?
It's just gonna be a flat panel.
Yes, like kind of what they're showing.
Yeah,
Right,
yeah.
yeah. So are you gonna enhance the parapet a little bit, other than just the cap that's on it right now, or shown on it?
Structurally, I kind of have to take that out and figure out what's there exactly, before I wrote the building. And right now, I think it bumps out maybe 8 or 10 inches, just under where the sign is, it's just how they get that in the red.
Right, I hear you.
Well, that wouldn't be so bad. would it?
That's not so bad, yeah. I think we were just,
I think if.
I'll just use the term I said, it's like, I just, you know, we didn't want like
Didn't want to.
themed, yeah, themed, you know. I mean, I get it, there's an ice cream shop, has a big ice cream cone or something, but
So if this came out, if this stuck out, 6, 7, 6 or 8 meters or something.
Yeah.
So there's a bump across there, and then you get a sign right here.
Yeah.
I think that's okay.
yeah, I mean.
What do you think, Jeff?
I mean, that's, yeah,
I think so.
yeah, because.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, so I think that was it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, we don't have to take a vote on this or anything, you say, okay, go.
Yeah.
What I actually want to say is thank you very much for trying to work with us.
I agree, you came
It doesn't
here.
always happen well, and
Yeah.
you've done a great job, and I commend you for it, I thank you,
I appreciate it.
okay?
Thanks, John.
All right.
Yeah, thanks for coming in.
Good night.
You have an extra copy of the photo that I can keep on,
Yeah, you can keep this one.
So we're ready to go.
Yeah, no, that was fine.
So now we can do the minutes, and,
Okay.
minutes of 2/6/1/24.
Yeah, this, just 6, right? Yep. Mr. Chairman, I move that the Community Planning Commission vote to accept the minutes dated February 6th, 2024 as written. Been amended, right?
Do I have a second?
Sure, second.
Okay.
Sorry, I
Go ahead. You also?
second, sure.
Okay.
Sorry.
That's okay.
We're amending you.
I thought you were making a second, I was gonna let you go with this. So, so I have a motion and a second for the minutes. Is there any further discussion, any corrections or additions? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye. It'll be a roll call vote. Jeremiah, what say you?
Aye.
And, Dave?
Aye.
And Jeff?
Aye.
And myself, aye. Let the record show, 4 in favor, no opposed. Okay, okay, we want to sign the.
Yeah. Right.
For the record, Ryan's not here, he's not, just not here.
the sign.
Is there a Mylar or would you just,
No, there's no Mylar.
oh,
No, I usually put like.
or and you're on top? Well, they go to you first.
I know,
Yeah. They come to you first. Oh, I see. Yeah, good. It was so.
There would be 319.
Yes.
It's okay, they don't have any signature on sheets A through. No.
Look around. Just send it to you. Danielle, we have no signature block on some of these.
I don't think every sheet actually has a signature block. I think it's
So-
the one showing the site plan. Yeah, like if it's
Yeah, the last one.
existing, it won't have it
Yeah,
or.
lots of sheets don't have it, but all-
Yeah, that's the actual like, so like the details.
Yeah, okay, good.
Yeah. And it actually. get them endorsed. It
He's
could have done the same thing.
not gonna reach.
I think he's really good. Like, not asking for permits, like,
Yeah.
summer and really getting those folks.
That's cool.
Yeah,
That's
Yeah,
gonna be
it is.
really transformative about that.
I know. and you really just-
Yeah, it is really cool, and I can see that sort of move back.
See them.
That's a tough call.
So, yeah, I mean, it's gonna get better, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm scared we gotta give credit for doing it, you know?
Wow.
So.
What would you say?
Yeah, it's like just a straight up.
She's my priority.
He's much older.
Oh, so she got.
She's 60. I'm
Last
60.
3 years, right?
Yes, I'm 60. I'm 60. So she's better than me. Her husband is a leadership when you go. So you look at that every meeting. Between 61 and 63. I have no. They're looking. Somebody does, I was born in 2000.
Wait, what? Oh, you didn't sign these?
I did some of them, I think I just have to pick up this one here.
It's just that I didn't have.
Oh, these are the three.
I went to second day. I should give me this.
I don't know if we can do that in all of the, I was like.
Oh, wait.
I was not.
He's got 3 kids.
Yeah, I know, right?
I told Don, I was just got pregnant with 3 boys. It's her 5th kid. It's her husband's 11. Look at the look, yep. And it was a mistake. She should be.
She should be in some like.
Like a journal.
Yeah.
She should be literally in a medical journal. Yes, 3, imagine 11. And all but 2 of them live with them.
Oh, that is one of. Mark, how many siblings do you have? 12? 11? 10?
Me?
You?
With 9 kids.
9 kids, okay.
9, okay.
I
I'm
just
just,
gave you like.
one of my very good friends is about to have their 11th child. I can't even, I just don't
I hope
know.
the family has money.
I love it. It just so happens.
Well, the thing is, though, even though, and myself, my wife and I raised 10 kids.
You had 10 kids?
So I'm 4 of them, right, that's one of the other things.
Okay. But still, you had 10 children that you raised.
Yeah, a couple of them were like, that really gets tough going.
Like certain, like portions, like saying like.
Pictures and proms and then high school seniors, same thing all over again, and the young drivers in.
Oh, my God.
It'll keep you poor.
I have 2, and I think I'm a hero.
When they go to school.
Oh, no.
Because the kids will know, they're all
How
still.
many children do you have now?
13.
13, there you go. I have none. Okay, just saying that very loud. I have none.
So they offer all like at one time shots, say, hey, this is coming. Well, how do they do it? Do they say like?
Oh, I do. I'm like, you.
One of the decisions.
My daughter's 30. Hello.
Warren, you know, that's I think more parks moving forward. Probably could just try to Preference to, there's someone, language that jumps out. I thought it said something about 10% of homework.
Yeah, I don't recall the exact, the problem is like, there are so many of us together.
Yeah, well,
She may not remember, but she can certainly look it up.
I think it is, if I recall.
Identical.
Because I was thinking, it just makes sense.
Five.
Yeah, yeah.
No, it's slightly different, but that makes sense.
Well, Bruce has been such a good developer for us, although it's first off, we had to go down. But once he got, once he got past the first one, no, seriously, once he got past the first one, he learned quick, and he became probably one of the best developers we had in town.
That's awesome.
Good quality work, good quality stuff, you know, we had a learning curve. Sorry, everybody.
I told him.
Yeah, oh, yeah. So that's good, so if they offer like portion out to the public first,
Yeah.
you know, it gives anybody like us,
Yeah.
if we're like, hey, we're tired of cutting the grass and
Yeah.
shovels and steps and
Those
all.
elevators, right?
Right, it's 60, I'm right with you, buddy.
Yeah.
I'm right with you, I keep talking about it, 55 plus, I keep telling Andy, this is gonna be beautiful.
Yeah.
You should see it, it's gonna be.
I keep killing stuff.
We've done such good work in the past.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Clarify for my minutes.
I would. I would.
Some things that don't show on this.
So that would be, okay, so that's good to know, Dave, because that's important, because I mean, how many friends or people do you know that, you know, just like, you know,
Do you have some big ones? You always work upstairs, right?
I mean, your kids, so how many kids? Girls. Oh, yeah, because you go, my youngest is 21,
Oh, my.
Yes.
my baby is 21, I'm oh, boy, I'm this close to get out, this close.
My youngest son is 35 and he's on his way to Japan.
Oh, wow.
So you have to wait, he's also a veteran, he got hurt in Iraq, so.
Oh, wow.
Was he in Navy or?
Army. He's 3 doors.
Ooh, that's tough.
He was the first, he was the last one, not so much.
Oh, boy.
He didn't get, he could,
Yeah.
he's done well, you know, but he gets a good. Yeah. He was in the 8th Fort engineering.
That's not easy.
No, I mean, the first 2 tours, he was, he just went, came.
So you know all 3 in Iraq? Wow, that's pretty amazing. That is amazing.
Didn't have to go the last time.
Can you stay away from all those fires, you know, you guys got all the
Never asked him about
ones. Dump permit, this, yeah.
So he was always, he was in machines and everything, and then he would go out on missions, you know. You know, I mean, you know, when they're kids, they're so. You know, yes, I know you worked all day, but then I'm building this air this one way, but I'm gonna go out tonight on night missions, you know.
Right.
So
Crazy, yeah. it's crazy.
Everybody's
When you're
here.
down with something that's-
It's like crazy,
Yeah.
but then you get all this clothes.
Yeah.
When they got, we're all gonna go out and do this, you gotta say, oh.
One of my sons got, you want that?
Yeah.
Off they go, yeah.
So, yeah,
Ready to go.
probably a little bit by an IED, you know,
Oh, shit.
which was a never-ending problem.
Yeah, a friend of mine was, works for Lincoln Laboratories, he was working on the, construction of all the vehicles.
Yeah.
And the side of those. Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Some deals.
I know.
Hey, Danielle, do you have any calculations?
Stop off.
Does.
I have tag.
Yeah.
Yes or no?
Yes.
Okay, I'm gonna need that.
I have mine that's.
Yeah.
I make fun of John.
Yeah, I think they were.
One day I went.
Four.
Yeah, but
Okay, I didn't look these over, so, you need them out of there?
Yeah, 122 Marblehead is the chickens, one, that's the first one, it seems pretty good, there's a, you know, shows the coop in the back, huge lot, I don't see any issues.
Other than neighbors.
Yeah, the neighbors and even them, they
No
put no roosters, they put the coop in the center, it looks good to me. Yeah,
Was that the one I had the big sketch with the whole?
yeah, they just show the coop in the back, you know. And this is the first one, 122 Marblehead also, this looks good to me.
I think it's,
Okay, Deb, we're basically okay with 1.2 overhead neighbors and no roosters. I guess, I see, I got it.
Do you want to paper copies, Ron?
If you like,
Well, if you want to look at them, I'm.
Yeah, can you bring them over? I have them, but so Warren has them. I have the one in front of me. So the next one, Warren, is 22 Reading Street. That's, they're looking to build a addition. And then, as I understand it, Danielle, they had a decision back in 2020, so, 24 years ago, that they were granted this addition somewhere fairly close. And, I don't know what that even, it's not valid anymore, right?
If it didn't act on it within the year,
Yeah, I thought it
then no.
would be 2 years, but a year even, okay. I
That
think,
one is a year?
For variance and for special permits too, I think.
okay, so special to CBA. So I'm not sure, it's the same family. But here's my issue with it, if you guys get to see the plan.
Is this number 22?
Yeah, I'm looking at it.
No, this one is, yeah, sorry, 22.
22 Right Street, I'm looking at it.
So they're proposing, if you look at sketch, and then you look at the aerial, and you even look at street view, the septic system is about 2 feet off of the driveway, paved at the very rear of the driveway, okay? So the septic system, and then they show the addition right over the septic, the leach field. So are they moving the leach field? And then they're moving the leach field, the discussion that we just had about Title V,
Yeah,
it's all border, their site has border vegetated wetlands on the front and the back. So that's all my comment would be is you need to go to Board of Health and make sure, because you clearly are building your addition right over your leach field. So that tells me you're gonna move it, put a new one in.
Okay, we can put that as a comment.
Yeah, so that would be one, and the other would be, I know there might have been, 3 people on the CBA back in 2020 that found a hardship, but I don't see the hardship again, like having to build this thing right on to the property line.
I can note that too.
Yeah, that would be, like, what's the hardship?
yeah,
Like,
the addition is right on the property
it
line.
goes right to the property.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no attempt to make it a little smaller or, go back a little bit, like, give the neighbors, and I know if you look in the aerial, the neighbor's house is over a bit, but it's still, the whole point of it, you're building right to your property line. Why don't you buy some property off the neighbor or something, if you really need a lot more land?
Well, a lot
Not
of
an
lots
easy thing to do, I guess.
Right Street is on a very small lot, all very.
Well,
small.
and then next to it though is a big lot though, the one to the left is
One to the
big.
left, yeah, I'm not looking at it on. Looking at what the.
Yeah, if you look at it,
was.
yeah, if you listen, or just go on Google Maps, satellite, the one to the left is rather large, but it's,
Yeah, I see, I got it.
yeah. So, additions on the septic system, then, so that's one, as shown, it's on the septic system, and then number 2, if you're putting in a septic system, are you sure you can put one in?
The wetland.
Well, yeah, what's sort of a nitrogen system perhaps, and then there's a limit on how many bedrooms you can have based on the new Title V rules. And this is to add a new bedroom.
So if
So,
they're adding a bedroom, then they're definitely going to have to,
well, that's what I'm saying, like, it's more than just meets the eye, it's kind of, there's a, things that will go. To it. But that, for the
now,
ZBA
this, okay,
to review. See the septic right in the back?
Yeah, so they're saying he wants to blow it out this way.
Yeah, all the way to the property line.
Okay, but what if this guy wants to blow out this way?
Well, exactly.
In the future, so like.
Yeah, and I know, yeah, that's why I always, just because a neighbor, and I don't know if a neighbor did put a letter in
And
there.
this here looks a little different here. This one has the proposed garage not touching a lot. Unless that is a lot, but that's a lot line. Maybe that is a lot line, you move it over. And you show them 6.5 lots of. And then 7 back here.
They just, and that would be the thing, since you can see it, he's got a thing image up too, did they move it recently, maybe? Right on,
Friday, you also.
right on his tank there.
I brought my own laptop.
Yes, I really well.
I'm gonna mess with that iPad.
Okay.
Yeah, he's,
It's hard to say.
Should be able to switch on.
You could have to move the bank, you know, I mean.
I don't know, 5 years, it's been sitting in my desk
Well,
drawer.
I'm not seeing how the piping, it's not like the original sidewalk.
So.
And nothing to say.
No, but I
Not like
agree with
when-
you, when they bought it, that's a, that's
Sounds like
an issue, like they have to.
Yeah, maybe, but,
But.
But this is 2020.
yeah.
They're a lot slower now.
This makes sense, so what you see.
I know, but I'm looking at this,
That looks-
wait a minute, they're looking at 6.5 feet off.
That doesn't look like a sketch though. I mean,
I agree.
dude, how do you get the overhead stuff?
The area?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They might know each other well, which is, common. Neighbors. So. Look on that for. So,
Oh, right.
So,
Okay,
I can see right in.
right.
Yeah, this, this is different, Dave. This picture here, this, plan, this plot of land plan shows, March 4th, 2024, and it shows that proposed addition right up against the lot line.
That's what I'm going.
Okay, so this was the 2020 approval, and it was just gonna be a garage. And apparently it's no longer just gonna be a garage.
Oh, okay, so it was 2020, why didn't I think it was 20,000?
No,
I thought it was like
that's
24
okay.
years ago.
You know,
Got it, okay, so, but still like more than a year, I get it. You're right, so that's why I wasn't looking at that, I was looking at the, as
Yeah.
proposed now,
Yeah,
which it goes all the way across.
yeah, so I guess, I think that what they were doing, leaning on the prior approval for a current approval.
I don't
And
think
yet it's a totally different application.
it is, and I don't think they moved their septic, you. Like there.
Well, no, I don't know what they did with it now.
This is it right here. Here's the septic, right there, I get the back of the driveway, right where they're saying, driveway on top of that.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Same features, so I don't know, could have been a new one put in. I mean, that could be,
That shed, this shed right here.
like these, I mean, this does look also disturbed back here, so
Yeah.
perhaps they did put in a new septic.
This is, see these right here? See the little wetland mark?
Yeah, the beans, they all
Yeah,
come
or
on
they-
the property.
And that's the 15 foot,
Yeah, and then you have a buffer, BBW buffer up front. So, but
Well,
they,
yeah,
if they
okay.
put in,
they got a 25 foot buffer around the wetland, so that answers your first question.
yeah,
So, but yeah, so what, I don't know what that means as far as where the septic is.
right, if you did the 2021, it shows it going in the back somewhere, and they could have done that, so. No, but that would be just, it's up to ZBA to look at it, but.
Yeah, I mean, this seems a little bit excessive, would you say that?
Yeah,
And it may or may not be totally.
Kind of like a doubling of the of the area.
to be that close to the lot line. I mean, so the original approval that they're talking about, the original variance, was not for an addition like this, it was for a two-car garage. And they were granted that variance, but they did not build the two-car garage. But they were kind of leaning on that and with the hope that it would give them the door into another variance. But this is a far more extreme variance than the garage. So I guess I would caution the Board of Appeals to look at it carefully.
Right.
And try to make a good decision, because we think it's a little excessive. Do you agree with that?
I agree.
I do.
Okay.
What do you think, Brian?
Brian, you okay?
Yeah, it's a tough precedent if you're gonna let people build on the lot line.
Yeah, you know what I'm doing.
Yeah, 6 inches from the lot line.
Yeah. Fortunately, I've seen what happens when they do that, and then somebody else comes out and says, oh, do you know your building is a foot onto somebody else's property? Then what? So, okay, so that's, you know, we think it's a little excessive, okay?
Okay.
And that's, takes care of that one.
The next one was the 8 Burdette jump business, not, I don't think running it like trucks, but just the operation, this business office. So seems pretty straightforward, just no trucks, even though not implied by the application, but
I could see how, if he's got a truck, he could have a truck, one truck, you know. But I can see how he would come home with the truck half full, you know, and try to fill it up the next day to go to the scrapyards. And I don't know if that's something that.
yeah. I mean, in fairness to the neighbors, I mean, that's why I was feeling, you know, just to run your office, not,
Right,
there should be any junk trucks.
yeah.
You know, on residential street, parking there and, that's very neighborly.
So, Jeff, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree with Dave, that's not very good.
Brian?
I apologize, I haven't come.
Jeremiah, what do you think about this, on the Burdette Road?
Yeah, just the same thing as you guys are saying, you know, the nature of the trucks and you know, still being full with junk, you know, definitely a concern. And that's a tight little neighborhood there, so
Right.
but if it's just office, I think that's fine.
Yeah, the office part is fine, but, you know, try to keep it from, becoming a mess, that's all. Okay, Danielle, you got to agree with that?
One more, there's the field press.
The field
I went up there,
press.
looked at this.
You went up there?
Yeah, I looked at this.
Okay. So this one, Danielle, the building inspector denied their permit or the ZBA said no and they're appealing the ZBA.
I think this is an appeal of the building inspector's decision.
To not allow them to
We have an
Yeah, to
existing
not-
building on site.
on the site
Not reconstruct the second dwelling on the property.
because it's not compliant, is that?
I think whatever, existing non-conforming status it had must have been lost by now. I'm not aware of the whole history of this property, but I think that was the reason it was denied.
I think it looks like a barn.
Oh, that was the one that was shown in the barn. Yeah, so originally it was a house in the barn. It was shown that way on their old plot plan. And so the building inspector said, well, is there any proof that this was the house that was like an actual dwelling? And so without that, he can't assume that that's a second house. I think that was the basis of the denial.
Oh, so
I think there's
predated subdivision law or something, that kind of thing, so you could have the two houses.
I mean, yeah, it's just, as of now, I think the building inspector would consider that to be two houses on one single family lot where the zoning doesn't allow it. And, so the plot plan here actually shows the barn and the dwelling. And then the letter from the building inspector says.
Yeah, Jerry says it's a house with a accessory structure.
Yeah, but it's not a full dwelling.
Yeah, it's not a full dwelling.
Is there a picture of it?
Yeah, Or there's a plot plan.
That was a full color picture of it, because I know where it is. If you walk down that street.
It's, so you look at the
Yeah,
aerial,
it's
it's right by the road, it's like,
It's right by the road, but if you look also the property, seeing back to Title V rules, we're just talking about, it's right on Martin's River there. It borders, it's right against the watershed, so again, that rule is for watershed septic systems, so it's gonna affect a lot of people in North Reading. And that could be one of them. So that's what I just would let them know to look into that. Board of Health would know better. Participation. See the aerial? It's like right up to the watershed. So if
And that-
it goes in, so you could separate it from the whole permit issue and say, okay, you have the right septic in place. I mean, it could be no, then there's no point in having this discussion. Right, yeah.
Right, does it have a line?
Well, I think that's what perhaps the renovation would entail, maybe. But it, you know, it just goes without saying, it's almost like it needs to go check this through conservation and.
In nineteen
Board of Health.
straightforward, they got various to separate these lots, so. Back in the days of Peter Scare, I haven't seen that.
Yeah,
So you support the building inspector?
I'm sorry?
Do you support the building inspector's decision?
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, as it's written, it does.
Because it's clearly a bond, it was clearly a bond with a, you know, and an earlier decision by the Board of Appeals, they called it a house, you know, with a barn.
Oh,
So, so I mean, I think Jerry picked that up and it's in the
Yeah.
packet here. His comments on it as well as the pictures and everything else, so I think they'd be hard pressed to convince anybody that that was a dwelling at any given point. It's a structure, that's about the limit of it.
Well, I mean, is it hooked up to the septic? Is that drawing?
Well, I mean, I don't have that kind of much information on it.
Well, I mean, I think you go through it, and be like, really was a home, right? Or it was just a barn.
It was just a barn.
But I mean, I'm saying it's pretty straightforward, you know, you walk in, there's a bathroom. There's a wall. You walk in, there's, like, it's just wide open with windows, and go. What am I missing?
Well, you know, I'm just going by what Jerry did.
Yeah, I see the exterior pictures, it just nothing, I mean, it looks like a house. I don't know what's to say it wasn't a house more than 50 years ago.
Sure.
But I feel like if you went inside it, you'd have a pretty good indication of.
In other words,
What it was.
they may have done some upgrading already without benefit of permit.
True, true,
And so it could in fact present itself a little differently on the inside,
yeah.
but, I
I
don't
don't
know.
think it's been lived in for a number of years, and that may have been a factor in the decision too.
Has been
It
lived
hasn't
in?
been, no,
Or
it
has
hasn't, no, so it, you know, I think it,
Yeah, I think that's what Jerry's saying, right?
yeah, I think that that's one of the factors.
Aside,
But they're saying it was before the bylaws, so. It's grandfathered, right?
I don't
yeah, other
think
than,
it's
we're not gonna go out there and look at it ourselves, so we have to take the word of Jerry.
Yeah.
That he's been there and looked at it, and the decision is that, and I think we need to support him in that, but just from what I can glean from the records that I have, I don't, going all the way back to 1987, I don't think it was, that it was never intended as a house in the first place, so it probably does not have the underpinnings of a house either. You got kind of agreement on that?
Yep.
Yeah, okay, definitely,
yeah.
thank you. Jeremiah, you good with that?
Yep, sounds good.
Okay, thank you. Okay, you got that?
Impressive record keeping on this. The minutes of 1987, I mean.
Yeah, I guess they were able to pull all the,
Shit, not like subdivision plans, 3,000 and stuff, but minutes from 87.
if it's our records, we have them in our office. We'll find a subdivision plan for sure.
Um, do we have a? What did I see at 8 o'clock here?
Haverhill Street.
They will.
Yeah, all right. Okay, here we go. Okay, 7,229 Haverhill Street.
I don't have any of these on PowerPoint yet, sheet here, I was having.
So good evening, Jill Mann here on behalf of John Holbrook, in connection with the OSRD for the 31 acres of land located between 7 Charles and 247, excuse me, Haverhill Street. So at our last meeting, there were some issues that we came back and are going to address this evening. And I prepared a PowerPoint just so I think it's easier sometimes to run through it. Just so it's all in one organized folder. So basically, again, we're looking for a 26 unit open space residential subdivision with a mix of single, multi and duplex structures. We had a few, yeah, we'll not come into, I'll show you which one. Okay, here we go. Look, right, yes, there we go. So then just hit the tab. Okay, so we had some questions from, or actually comments from the board members, and a couple of them were related to site distance. So number one is we did realign the intersection. I'm going to go through that to show you to just increase the available site distance. We recognized that it was, what one would consider to be safe pursuant to the normal ASHTO requirements, but we did try to realign that connection so that it wasn't exactly at a 45, and then we'll show you that when we get the plan. So we did do that.
Is that Haverhill Street?
Haverhill Street, yes. So yeah, so where it actually entered into Haverhill Street, where that Lucas Lane does, we realigned that. In addition to that, I just wanted to point out the OSRD really isn't keeping with that, with the basic tenets of the open space residential subdivision. Yeah, we're really pushing to increase the amount of open space and to protect and preserve it. Just in general, we do preserve 65% of the land, and we did revisit the conventional subdivision. I wanted to go back through it and make sure we weren't requesting any waivers under that yield plan. So I'm going to go back through the yield plan to show you that, because when we had discussed it at the last meeting, the board was kind of like, look, we really need to go through that a little bit better to understand the plan more. And that's what we're going to do tonight as well. Then as far as the stormwater, some concerns, not really from the board as much as from abutters. What about the stormwater? We have to comply with stormwater management rules and regulations at the local and state level. It's just that really isn't right now. Right now, we're going to tell you, we're going to give you the stormwater, but when we do the definitive subdivision approval, we'll give you full plans and a full report that shows the complete compliance. And we are going to restore and replicate those wetlands that were disturbed. So first and foremost, we are not touching DCR rights of way. I call them rights of way because that's exactly what they are. They're owned in fee, but they're a right of way. That's how DCR has access up to Harold Parker, and that's how fire access would be. And all of those rights of way were actually still an easement to not only the property that we're talking about, but also to a couple of lots that abut it, namely 253 and 255 Haverhill Street that have their driveways off of Amber. So we are going to restore those wetland areas, and I'm going to show you those, and we are going to restore the access points along Amber. What we're going to do is restore them, and we're never going to touch Amber Road. It has absolutely nothing to do with the OSRD. It's just that once we take over the property, we kind of inherit the requirement to restore those areas. And then we're going to, we're going to create access to Harold Parker. We're doing that, and we create trails. So can you go to the next page?
Can I ask you a quick question?
Oh, my gosh, of course.
Yeah, I mean, this is the pertinent location. I mean, the access off of North Street or up Haverhill Street at Amber Road, is there any way to mitigate the fact that it's likely that you could have 30 cars a day driving in there? Once you move that trailer and they have access, they can drive all the way back. So one of the major concerns of the abutter there,
I know.
the attorney is how do we protect how do we keep, and we're coming out in the morning and finding, 15 cars parked on the roadway or in front of his house.
No, and I hate to say it, but the harsh reality is it's not his property. And it's always been that way. It's DCR's property. I mean, I don't have control over it, nor does anybody else that is just benefited by the easement. But I'm going to go through that. I'm going to tell you, we're going to restore the area. I don't have the right to do anything to Amber Road. I can't even put it.
By restoring the area, we increase the size of the problem.
Well, no, and I'll
That's why
tell
I
you.
brought it up right now.
But what's interesting, right? So the restoration doesn't, because restoration means bringing it back to the status it was in prior to the scouring that took place.
Yeah.
So I'm going to show you some pictures because our proposal is to revegetate certain areas, throw down some seed mix, throw down some, that has shrubs and stuff in it, and simply to create the apron, we have to have an apron off of Haverhill because you have to have that smooth transition between the public road and the private, and then we'll create aprons for the driveways, and then even repair a part of the driveway that services 253, because it was really, you could see the erosion, and I'm going to show you pictures of that.
Well, quick question about, well, I can wait till I get there, I guess, but, just a question about, it looks like there's a lot of road base been brought in there.
Yeah, I'm going to show you that. There has been.
And so the net result is that won't grow, those trees won't grow in that road base.
We're gonna show you what we're gonna do. So we're gonna take some of the material, we're gonna grind some stuff, because when you go in, it's all, I'm gonna show you pictures.
Okay.
We'll visit that literally in 2 slides.
Okay.
So, that's what some of the questions that the abutters asked are, I think you might have seen some of the emails, can you remove the trail? Can you remove the fence? Can you, what can you do? How can you protect us in stormwater? Can you fix our, we're gonna take care and restore to what you had before. We're not going to create, a 28-foot paved surface, because number one, DCR won't let us just do it in one little area and stop. So what we're gonna do is restore. Well, in order to do that, we have to go back through an entire permit process. We don't have the right to do it. We're not permit. It's not a small undertaking, it's an exceptional undertaking, but to restore is simply restoration. So that we can do readily.
And one thing.
Oh, yeah, I apologize.
Mr. Chair, is, some of the barricades per se could be left over there and leaving, maybe like an access chain for the fire department in order to get back there. Right, so that'll limit, if vehicles do choose to go back there, at least that area can still be contained.
Yeah, so you know where they have that, we're gonna show you the boulders and where the trailer is. What our goal is going to be is not to remove it. So that way they can't drive back.
Anybody that has a four-wheel drive Jeep looks at this as a challenge.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I know.
So I'm just concerned.
And unfortunately, DCR allows it.
Well, I
So,
wonder if DCR, well, I don't know. I wonder if maybe we need to petition DCR to do something about,
that we could do. That's possible.
I would like to do that.
And then, with regard to some of the other concerns that the abutters are raised, obviously, the number one concern is they're worried about Amber. And that's why I say, look, we'll help as much as we can, we'll restore, but this has absolutely nothing to do with our OSRD, zip.
I'm aware of that. I appreciate
Yeah.
that too.
But we still want to be good neighbors. I mean, John wants to be a good neighbor. And one of the other concerns was, under the OSRD regs, we have to maintain a 50-foot no disturb buffer. I mean, we aren't allowed to touch it. And we do show that on all the plans. And I wanted the abutters to understand, look, maybe it's not shown, it is shown on the plans, but in definitive, we actually put it on and there will be a prohibition. It will follow the deed, because every homeowner, every property owner, condominium will not be allowed to go into that 50-foot area that runs along the back property that abut otherwise, other owned properties. Can we go to the next step? So I gave Danielle a copy of the PowerPoint if you wanted to see it too. So now we go. Oh, the next slide. Yeah, this is the, so I just wanted to give you an overall picture. This is what happened in 2013 when that particular owner of the property cut in and literally cleared those rights of way. I just thought it would be good for you to see it. So that's what it looked like when he first did it in 2013. Can you go to the next slide? So here it's starting to grow in. This was the kind of the point, Mr. Pierce, that now it is starting to grow. So what we're going to try to do in the front portions is actually really encourage that growth. Can you go to the next portion? So I just put this plan up so that you could see the areas that we are proposing to restore that we are required to. So basically it is amber because that was part of the original contest in court. You know, if there was some sort of disruption or if there was going to be a real road going in, then there had to be modifications made to each of those driveways. We simply are going to restore that area, and that you see, you know, clouded. And then you'll notice in the center, on Priscilla, you'll see another square cloud. That's because that's where there was some disturbance to that wetland that cannot have happened, and we have to go back in, clear the area, and bring back the wetland. So I just showed you this slide right now for that purpose. Can you go to the next one?
Yes, I just got a text from Jeremiah that he can't see the presentation on the screen, and I'm trying to figure out why. Can't see the pictures on Zoom, only shows the thunder.
We can email him.
Oh, I think we have to select.
Okay, I was gonna say I could email him. So while we're here, I'll just,
I will.
I understand, share screen.
Share the act.
Yep. Right there. Now can you see it?
Let me just
Yeah,
check.
that was good.
It looks like you can, but I can't really.
Yeah, we can see it now on Zoom. Thank you.
Okay, Thank you, Ms. Johnson. So I just wanted to show you now the intersections of Haverhill and Amber. So as you can see, you know, they're correct. You know, when this roadway was disturbed, look at what happened. You know, potholes were created and never repaired. So this just shows the apron at Haverhill. I think in town, I'm not 100% sure what the apron distance is, but you might be 10 or 20 feet off of the right of way. So we will make sure that there is a paved apron on Amber. We have to. Yep.
Another quick point. It seems to me, John, you may know more about this. I remember seeing did they put a water tap right there, a water line tap right in there?
I don't know that.
I think they did. I was just wondering if you were planning on, if you're not gonna use it.
No.
No, but we aren't gonna be using that at that location, if there is one there. No. The town may have gone by and put a, you know, a T in, but we're not planning on using that.
Okay, all right.
And then you can see, so this is now, the second slide is showing if you stand on Haverhill and you're looking up. So what John's plan is it, you can see they really did widen it quite a bit. But I'm going to show you when we go back how we can fix some of those issues. So what we plan on doing is literally making the the surface, which is really just processed gravel, to go back and then enter into each of the existing driveways. There were actually 3 driveways, 2 for 2 homes and then 1 for a garage. So the intent is to come in, regrade this area, and then take out some of the materials on the side, make sure there's a proper transition to the driveways, and then try to revegetate the area by spreading some next. So that's what we'll do in this area. Can you go back? Okay, I just wanted to show you what it looks like. So the top picture is just a picture of the home that exists. And then the right side, as you can see how degraded the driveway was. I mean, part of it definitely was at the grading intersection, but obviously what ended up happening was it started to erode even more going up the hill because it had been degraded at the beginning. And then so you'll see the homes are the 2 top. And then remember I told you that there was a second driveway accessing a garage. That's what you see on the bottom picture. So we'll make sure that the access points are good. And then to Mr. Pierce's point, can you go to the next slide? There was a lot of materials that were added. Some of it worked well. So this is the 255, I believe, Arsenal's property. It seems like that transition is pretty easy and good. But then to the right, you see where the truck is. That's actually where the property goes to the unused portion of Amber, and we'll see some of that area as well. So the intent is again to remove some of the material and then to try and spread some mix so that you don't encourage vehicular traffic in these areas. Can you go to the next slide? Okay, so here's where you can see this is facing Haverhill. I just wanted to show you, we plan on fixing these areas, but as you can see, the roadway, the further away from Haverhill Street you get, the smaller the traveled ways get. Can you go to the next slide? And then here's the end. So this is what everybody's talking about. There's that kind of fence. I know it's, I mean, that's makeshift. We would be willing to put in, 2 real poles and I don't remember what it's called, like a breakaway chain, so the fire department has access because they do need access. And then we will ask for for the trailer to be removed. It's not our property and it's not on our property, so that's all we can do is try to facilitate that. But as you can see, even though the land behind was disrupted, it's already starting to grow in. But Mr. Pierce, I will add that that had much less gravel and right grade changing, John, because it wasn't where the other driveways were. So we're gonna have to do a little more work in the front part. But as you can see, it does grow in. Okay, wanna go to the next slide? All right, here's the meat of the whole project now. This is the yield plan, the conventional plan. I wanted to show you a plan that absolutely requires no waivers whatsoever. So this particular plan has what I will call roadway one. Roadway one starts at Charles Street, and you can see how it enters, and it comes around and it's a through street. So it goes all the way down to Haverhill Street. Because it's a through street, there's no limitation on length. Now, with regard to the street that comes in from Charles and then goes down and is within one of the DCR ways, you can see that it's about, I want to say it's about 600, it's a little, it's not actually because it's on a street. So I think it's 270 feet, whatever, it's less than the 500 required for looping a main. So then you go to the back and you'll see that we purposely ended the roadway before Amber Road hit Haverhill Street. That was with intention, because the last thing we wanted to do was face the issues relative to site distance for Amber. So we have a cul-de-sac. That cul-de-sac's 99 feet, so no need to loop the main. However, when you go the other way and you travel up, that's still Amber, and then you come down into that cul-de-sac, it's 990 feet long. So it's under 1,000, which means it's permitted, but we connect and we have a loop of the water main. So we show that on the plan. So that's the ways. All roadways are 66 feet wide, and they all show a paved surface of 28 feet. They all have room for sidewalks on both sides. All lots maintain the minimum lot frontage, minimum area for the RA district. There is one limited frontage lot. So that's the one that is at the back of that cul-de-sac that's to the north. Yeah, right there. So there's the limited frontage lot. It does have 120,000 square feet. It only has 50 feet of frontage, but it does have a 250 feet diameter circle, and its driveway is only 256 feet long. The limited frontage requirements is you cannot have a driveway longer than 1,000 feet. So we wanted to demonstrate that even that property complied with and does not require any waivers. So that's basically the yield plan. That's the conventional plan. We had submitted earlier plans, which quite frankly, needed a couple of waivers, which is why I said, we need to come back to the board and put our minds together, and we can still maintain the 22 lots, great, but that's what needed to be done, and that's what has been done on this plan. Do you have any questions about the yield plan, or can I move on, or?
That's 22 lots.
22 lots, yes. Okay, we can move and then you can ask questions. Can we go to the next one? I reiterate the whole thing about the open space. I mean, clearly the whole purpose of this particular regulation is to create open space and to create more protections for wildlife habitat, fauna, for, you're trying to actually preserve while you allow people to maintain housing in town. So I just repeated this. And again, I will say that everything will be owned by a condominium association, which means it will be managed and maintained by a professional organization. Can you go to the next one? And it will be, will grant conservation restriction to the town, which I assume will be administered by your conservation commission. I'm just going to go over Abigail Way again, because I think sometimes that's a good thing. Abigail Way is going to be a public street. When we come before you, if this board so chooses to issue that special permit, we'll be back to you with a definitive subdivision plan that shows both Abigail Way and Lucas Lane. Abigail Way will be a 450-foot long way. We would prefer to narrow the amount of pavement, but that's going to be something we do during subdivision approval. Your OSRD regs allow you to minimize the amount of pavement from the 28-foot normally required to much smaller. We are providing sidewalks on one side. I think that was a concern of a couple of board members. And we do show it as well for that multifamily, but I'll get to that when we go to Lucas Lane. We do provide on all of these plans that 50-foot no disturb buffer around the properties. So if we abut a property that is not part of this OSRD, we're required to maintain a 50-foot buffer. And that, I don't just mean it has to be natural and untouched. So in this particular concept plan, we do show, and Mr. Pierce, you brought this up, we do show two lots that show only a 20-foot access point off of that cul-de-sac that is Abigail Way. We did that to truly minimize the amount of disturbance, because if the board does have the right to grant that kind of a waiver. However, if you choose not to during the definitive segment, we can literally create a roadway that we would have to get approved by DCR, but we would, that would extend off of that cul-de-sac, but it would be private. I wouldn't be able to grant public easement rights over it, because the town wouldn't probably want to maintain it, so it would be privately maintained by those two homeowners. So it's up to the board, but if I'm granted a waiver, I apologize.
That's good. Did you get a copy of the town council's letter?
I did not.
I haven't given it to anyone but all of you at this point.
All right, it's just that it deals with this specifically, so
I
that
think this was the issue I brought up yesterday when we were on the show.
Yes, that's what I think.
With regard to the driveways.
Yeah,
And having this.
And we're more than able to handle that in the subdivision process. We show the lots because we're required to, because if we don't show them to you, then I have to come back and modify that special permit. So I show them, but it may not necessarily be that type of access. It may have to be a roadway, whatever the board
should be
chooses.
something different according to town council, but once you read that, you'll see. So I just want to let you know that that's an issue.
We absolutely
We
recognize
keep
it.
it real right now.
Yep, we recognize it.
Yeah.
And then each of those lots, every lot, requires the waivers from, obviously dimensional aspects, because that's what OSID is all about. And I did list the waivers, and I do include them again here. So, and this is for 9 single-family home lots. That's what's more keeping up here with regard to how the roadway lays out. Now, can you go to the next one, John? Okay, so here's our Lucas Lane. Lucas Lane is our only a 417-foot long street. So the street accesses, and then you see you have a fairly decent driveway to access the multifamilies. The reason for that is we need to provide for two-way traffic on that way, number one. Number two, I have to provide for sufficient fire vehicle access. So the fire vehicle can actually traverse the entire property for the multifamily. They need to be able to have 365, partly because it's multi, and you need to be able to get behind the buildings just in case. And we do that in this particular concept plan. In addition, we do have a walkway, so that if you have people who want to walk the subdivision or walk somewhere and they live in these homes, they have a sidewalk that can go up. And you can see our trail. One of the questions we actually had from the abutter was, where's your trail? How do you protect my home from the trail? And you will notice that when we place trails, we place them away from other people's homes. So with regard to people who live here, they're making a choice to live in an OSRD with public trails, but the people who don't live here didn't. So we maintain them outside of our 50-foot no disturb area, and then even a little bit beyond. And all of the trails will be marked, will have signage, and will be delineated by a split rail fence, so that you don't have people meandering out of where they ought to be, hopefully. So then this is this entire roadway services the duplex units and then multifamily. So we have the duplexes on the lower end, if you will, and they're shown from lots 10 through 13, and then lot 14 is the one that it will service for the multifamilies. Again, this is going to be a condominium, and all of the open space resides in the bottom. The benefit of doing it like this and not creating, more lots on the bottom side was we preserve all of that natural landscaping, especially all of that sloping in the bottom portion, and we preserve a huge area of open space where we will place our septic system, which is permitted by your OSRD regulations. Yeah.
So, the long roadway that goes out back to the condominiums there,
Yes.
the, I'm assuming the darker area is paved and the lighter area is just gonna be gravel.
Yes, it is
There's
correct.
probably gonna have to be some, in the documents for that, there's gonna have to be some requirement of maintenance for that.
Absolutely. In the maintenance, the beauty of the condominium is that you put it on a professional organization that will maintain, and then you can assess any property owner. I mean, I know that sounds kind of draconian, but I love condominiums. I cannot tolerate these things called homeowners associations because they mean nothing. It's like, okay, you gotta go to court and enforce everything. But with regard to a condominium, you simply assess. I mean, it's really,
So are you, Attorney Mann, will they be plowing that entire route in the winter?
they would have to,
Yeah.
because they have to,
Yeah, 'cause
yes.
you can't back up, DPW plows won't back up.
Yeah, and it's open so that you will be able.
Well, they're not supposed
Oh,
to
I
be,
know.
they're supposed to be going right through, yeah.
Well, they could though, that's why they'll.
Yeah, they're plowing.
They're gonna have to, you know, that's why I said that gravel's gotta be maintained, because in the wintertime, you know, plowing gravel, if the ground's not frozen, not fun.
And the beauty of this is, though, it's not the town's responsibility to do any of that driveway, that's all private.
Yeah,
So,
well, I just meant it's gonna be done in the typical rules of plowing, you know, again, that big kind of area, and then you're gonna need it open for fire trucks and
yes,
emergency vehicle that can't back up as well, so.
Right.
right, we have to maintain it for fire purposes.
So, along that line though, is there, there's parking lot off that
Yes.
roadway, right?
So, yes, so you can see at the end of the cul-de-sac, we provide 5 public spaces, but because it's in the open space, we're graveling those.
My concern was a hammerhead of some kind for the ambulance and stuff to turn around.
For where?
Any particular point, I mean,
The cul-de-sac provides for the turnaround.
yeah,
And then when you go into behind, it will be sufficient for ambulances if they cannot turn to traverse the whole, that fire road is intended to be traversable.
And there'll be driveways.
Yeah, I was just gonna say.
And there will
right?
be a driveway.
Yeah.
We've been out, we just haven't designed that. But we will, but no matter what, there will be.
For the smaller vehicles, like
Yeah,
that.
space.
Instead of-
Yeah, we don't know exactly,
yeah.
right, because we don't know exactly what they're gonna look like to the T, you know, we.
Yeah.
So you'll have driveways probably going into the front, maybe you'll have a side access for one of them, just to kind of create, the best thing in the world is to create kind of that different front facade, so that it doesn't look like, you know.
Yeah,
So we did kind of think about that aspect too. Can you go to the next one? These are all the waivers. I know this board wants to see the waivers because it's important that they're brought to everybody's attention initially and consistently throughout. So, you see, I'm asking for a waiver to allow slopes of grade 25% within the open space. That's literally the area that will remain undisturbed and provide a beautiful buffer and a lot of wildlife habitat. We need to allow for reduction of all dimensional requirements. You know, obviously, we're not looking for reduction of the 50-foot perimeter requirement, but we do need to be able to reduce the front of the lot. The way the OSRD works is you actually have to ask for the waivers, and it says the board's allowed. Sometimes in OSRDs, they'll set minimums. But you only set a minimum for 50% of sides. You don't set it anywhere else. So that's why I wanted to set everything out in detail. So there's no lot under 20,000. There's, all lots for the most part have 80 feet of frontage. However, as I point out, 0 feet of frontage for lots 5 and 6. And then I just detail in the alternative, you can create an extended way. We'll discuss that definitive and you can tell us how you feel. We are requesting to have front setback, side setback, rear setback cut in half. And that's what you see. We're requesting, you know, a waiver to allow 10% max building area. And it's weird because, you know, on all of your lots, you require a minimum of open space. But we're trying to provide more open space than the general open space than specific open space. That's why we're looking for the waiver. And then as we talked about at the very first meeting, the multifamily structures, we would like to allow 35% because under your bylaw now, I believe it's 25%, right? That's what the multifamily is. And then we want to allow, this is a weird one. It's so hard to explain it. So under your bylaw, you say you can't have more wetland in your open space than you have generally in your property. The issue is, how it really should be is they should require a minimum amount of upland, because it's easier to explain. Because we definitely have more wetland in the open space, because you can only build on upland. But if we were to literally extract that percentage of open space to make it so that it's the exact, we still meet the 50% of open space requirement, which is why we say, you know, look, at if you allow a greater percentage, fine, but I broke it up, if you remember, into primary and secondary, open space, primary and secondary open space, to show you secondary open space is all wetland. So if you base the criteria only on the primary, we meet the requirement. You wanna go to the next one? You know what, I just added the site distance plan again. We did not yet redo it, Mr. Pierce. This is under the old one.
Right.
But when you saw you see how Lucas Lane bends? Can you go back to where Lucas Lane is, John, just so we can show them how you redid it? Oh, there you go. So you can see how it doesn't have that.
Yeah.
Curve. You can see how it changed the entrance there, so. And that really is all of the project outline for the OSRD and the regulations for North Reading. And if you have questions, or you want to open it up to the, butters, I will sit down. And you know what, can you go just like to the general PowerPoint page, and if they want to look at another plan, we can just go to it. It's like, look at it, I'll show you this. Oh, I don't have to do it like this.
Did you read the attorneys?
So, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, agree.
It came, that came in, yeah.
The one from,
It actually came right before noon.
the one from Julio, or the one from?
Oh, Towns.
The one from,
Yeah.
okay, come to the, I would say the.
Oh, and I forgot to tell you, we tried to meet with Mr. Romeo on site, and I know Ms. Arsenault wants to meet with us when we finally do it, but Mr. Julio has some crazy family emergency happen, so we were out on the site, but he didn't show, not for bad reason, but well, for bad reason, something happened to a personal family member, so. But we did have a telephone conversation with Mr. Romeo, and we do plan on meeting out there and then inviting the Arsenals and Mr. Romeo. I think he's back. I don't want to speak for him, but I think, did he say next week?
Yeah.
Yeah, so before the next meeting, we'll have another meeting with him, because as I said, we aren't doing, this is not part of our subdivision. This is simply because we
Yeah.
need to be good neighbors.
Attorney Man, I just have a question on,
Yes.
as it relates to our OSRD, our bylaws too, just so you can kind of respond, but in, item number 10 or section 10, I guess, number 10, item 1, it reads, and I'll read the whole thing because it's not that long. Residential structure shall be oriented towards the street serving the premises and not required parking area. When the open space residential development will include a mix of housing types, the developer shall seek to place single-family houses towards the perimeter of the site, especially where it abuts residentially zoned and occupied properties, especially where is the site, or it's not the houses. So that's, I just want to be clear about that. So you have some, I think, duplexes or, so I just want you to respond to that, because you're basically, as it relates to this bylaw, it says, especially where it abuts residentially zoned and occupied. So check for those two ones.
Can you go back to Lucas? Yeah. So essentially, it does try to get you to use it interior. So like where we put the multifamily, that's like that is the desired area to try and achieve the multis.
The density of that.
Exactly.
I get that part. I'm
Yep.
talking about the one.
Exactly. You're talking about up front.
Yeah.
So we recognize that this is abutting the Romeo property, but the difference in grade is
I
such
mean the
that
opposite, so I'm referring to the.
the down, you're talking about the four duplexes.
Yes.
Yep.
Because there's a buffer of some degree.
Yep.
Onto the north, you know,
Right.
with the ledge cropping, it's basically a large,
And that's quite frankly why we did it. I mean, and we brought the houses completely forward on the roadway. And we thought that because we were providing such deep lots, because they're over 300 and something feet deep, we thought that we were providing enough separation and would even be willing to increase the amount of the buffer behind, because you can see how much area we have. The point is to truly maintain as much distance as possible. And that was the whole intent with the multis, because we felt like those were really more of a differentiated use, like with duplex units such as this. I guess we thought that if we provided the additional buffer area, we would meet the spirit of that. That's why we did it.
But again, I'm referring more to the southern property
sorry.
line there, and there's it's not shown, but there's a house.
Oh, the Arsenal probably across the street.
Yeah.
Okay, see, and the reason we thought we were actually honoring that as well was, and that's why we actually put the street there and didn't try to separate and create houses on both sides. Well, we couldn't probably anyway, but here we put up the whole row of trees to create a buffer between that home and then the use. Because quite frankly, if we were to put more multifamilies in back, the amount of traffic would be the exact same thing. It's just about, can people see it? Is it visually impacting them? So that's why we put up the row of trees.
And it's just doubling
Yep.
the amount of cars going in and out of driveways in the morning. It's just, and that's probably the whole reason for the bylaw, to try to make it so that it's not so much amplified.
So I wonder if that, I think it's more the buffer and the visual aspect, because I would be allowed under your bylaw to locate them deep into the project, but I still have to get out. So I still have to drive out of the project. So I don't really alter the number of cars or the driveways. And I can do things with regards to the drive. So like the driveways have to be, I'm gonna make a mistake, but maybe 50 feet from the intersection. Whatever it was, we purposely made sure that we could locate the home so that they would have a distance away from the intersection. But that's why we did what we did with the buffer, because we knew about that particular provision. Because we figured, again, that the street, no matter what, was going to have on it that number of units, which is, 869, what is it? Oh my God, I can't even read
The
math.
street south
20.
versus put the houses south and the street north. That therefore you're kind of putting them right up against the residential, your budding. You following me? What I'm saying is, you made the decision to, instead of putting, which would have been hard, I think, with sightlines on the street in general, but if you put the access road on the north of those lots, because the lots jam down to the lot line, you're actually then, truly kind of violating the bylaw here.
Oh, that would really be,
Yeah, so,
plus the blasting would, even because all the ledge, you have a lot of ledge on the other side.
it's
We have,
definitely starts to rise up right there.
we do, so we really are trying to balance and, we're more than willing to meet with that homeowner and talk about, some other aspects if they want us to put a
I
fence
mean, I
on.
would just, again, we don't really need to hash it out here, but it would be a lot of buffer planting, things like that, whatever they would be.
And we can definitely infill that whole area, because all that blue there, that's not a small amount of area. We could easily infill
John,
that.
what's the differential
Can you
in the grades there? So is the street into the?
We need to cut down the hill a little bit because, the grades are over the maximum slopes allowed. So the road as it enters in is gonna be cut down a little bit.
Okay.
And then we're actually holding, some of this area for stormwater management. And then we have the vegetated buffer along the side of it.
So the stormwater management along 247?
There will be stormwater management.
Sorry, could you say your name, please?
Jean Hardy, 247, April.
So some of, to answer your question, ma'am, some of the, on the property will have stormwater management for this short section of road where it grades down. The rest of it, pretty much this is the high point where the mouse is gonna be graded back to the circle. So there's not an intensive amount of, per se, of stormwater management.
So John, just a depressed kind of riprap area. if you
Yeah,
will.
just a small basin pond, yeah. Yeah, the amount of runoff, excuse me, from that area is marginal.
you say it's marginal because you'll be grading it, because right now, every time there's a rainstorm, 249 driveway goes right into Havel, all the gravel.
So when this is graded, like I said, this high point all the way back will be managed into a pond back here. So all the runoff from here back goes into here. And then this area here will be managed in a depression alongside of the road in here. That's the intent, but that'll be defined further when we do the stormwater management plan.
Another question on the street, the way it is now, it goes up and it kind of turns. Is that still the intent, or is it straighter now because there's a cliff right there? That you'll probably have to.
Yeah, it'll have to be worked out, yeah, during construction. And worked out, being graded and modified.
Yeah, I'd like to just quickly point out, this is not a definitive plan. This is, what we're looking for is just to make sure that this piece of land qualifies as an OSRD, as an open space residential development. And that's all we're working on right now. And when we get to that point, if it looks like that all works out, then they'll do a definitive plan, and we'll probably address a lot of the questions you have when that happens, okay? So, any questions from the board? Give us a lot of stuff here to look at,
I know.
but it was good. It was good.
Excuse me, Mr. Chair, are you opening up to the public?
Yeah, not yet. I was just doing the board right this minute, but I will show.
All right, thank you.
Let's stop this one.
So, any,
I'm just curious, like, because I can't see that.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, I'm just curious on that. Okay, are you-
Step back up.
I'm sorry. Yeah. Yeah, so the southernmost property, all the way to the left there,
Yes.
the front, yeah, that one right there. The frontage on that piece of property, is that, it just appears that it's a lot smaller than the others. And I can't really see that, so
It is, it's 80 feet, and I just think, we obviously can manage and move them around. And in definitive, maybe we will like alter the shape, because if we really wanted to, we could make them all one lot, because it's the duplex and they're gonna be condos.
right.
We show it like this for flexibility only, because we know that if we don't, then we have trouble with having to, come back and modify the special permit. That's why we did it, but,
So that has 80 feet
yes.
frontage as it stands right now.
Yep, as it stands now, but during definitive, you will have a lot to say about that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
okay, good.
No, I'm good, thanks.
Okay, fine.
I think I'm good. I mean, I think the one thing I'm still trying to wrap my head around is the use and rights around the Anvil Road. I see letters from the public or whoever is writing in, asking about, their future access to that. Obviously, Romeo isn't particularly concerned about the continued access of that.
Well, so am I. I mean, that's why I started questioning, is there anything we can do about it?
Yeah, so I guess just still trying to wrap my head around
So
what is by right the condition there for the public, if there is any.
I can go through it,
I'm pretty clear on what your intention is to
but I
the
can,
restoration, but
so I had to go through the title for it. Because in order for us to proceed, we needed to make sure that John did have certain rights to the road, because I couldn't submit the conventional plan without knowing. So I went back and I reviewed the title, and this woman, Amber Frey, was the one who owned all the property. And she granted the DCR, this, Amber and Priscilla. It's my understanding, the reason she did it was, so DCR, she thought, hey, maybe DCR is gonna do that and create the ways, and then I don't have to pay the money, and I have all these A&R lots. That's what it sounds like kind of happened at the time, but DCR smartly, and she required that she have access rights and the right to develop. So if DCR didn't put the roadway in, She and her successors had the right to do all the roadways and put them in, and so however they saw fit in order to create the subdivision. So that's the right that she had, but it's subject to getting permits from DCR and then all the other requisite permits from this town. Because just because it shows in a right-of-way plan doesn't mean that you have ever approved the definitive for it, and you had not. So we would have to approve the way accordance to your bylaws. So they have the rights. Now I never looked at the title for the Arsenal and Romeo. But based on what I saw when I looked at the decision, when there was a contest between Romeo and the current owner of this property, it would appear that Romeo also was given full rights to be able to use Amber in whatever way they see fit. So that's where they have legal rights to use it. But DCR has the right to maintain it as open and access. So no one has the right to block the way, and that was very clear. And it was basically part of the court's decision. Nobody can block it. However, if DCR doesn't intend to use it, or if DCR intends to simply use it as a fire access, we're more than willing to try and facilitate that process with DCR to say, let's put up something, we're gonna vegetate here, we're gonna make it not as appealing for true public access, because we have no problem if they come in this subdivision. It's a subdivision roadway, it's set up for people to access it. So we had discussed this with Mr. Romeo, we plan on signing our property, trail access. We also said we would see if we could propose some sort of signage on Amber saying, improved access over through Lucas Lane. And I think we have the legal right to do that, but I can't post no access. I'm not allowed to do that. It's not my right to do that, but we're going to try and do everything we can to help those people. But that's all of the legal rights. That's what I
So does
know.
the public have right to access that?
Yeah, so yes,
Yeah.
and they have the right to access if DCR says yes. So DCR has allowed people access rights because it owns it and it can grant that, but there's nothing stated anywhere. Like I've never seen anything saying they're public trails, never. But
People have now.
yeah, and DCR doesn't stop it. So none of us who own to it can stop it. Like because you have to see, we have all of that back, but the property is also, abutted by this.
I mean,
And that's why we put,
one of the interesting aspects
Yeah.
of this is that DCR was willing to let this prior owner pave that road all the way in and create a parking area down the end. I mean, they were like, fine, you want to pave, well, go ahead and do it.
they loved it.
Yeah, they loved it, but he didn't do it, but, because, it just didn't follow all the rules, but DCR was fine with it. So, I mean, they'll let you fix any of their roads that you want to fix.
So
as long as
just-
you pay for it.
In all that work that was done, there's an outstanding order of conditions to do it. And there is a permit from DCR that's lapsed now,
That's last.
but
It was there.
they got, the person who did it got the rights to do it from
Yeah.
DCR. Because even though you have the right, you have an easement right to use, doesn't mean you don't have to get a specific permit for them to do all the work.
Right.
Even the air work that we need to do will require construction access permit from DCR.
Right. Which they will give you because again, if you're gonna fix their road, they're all about it.
Yeah.
So one of the letters we received from, Mr. Benedict was with regards to I assume he's referring to the rocks and the chain that are up there.
Yeah.
In his words, I believe, said illegally. But if we're planning on planting that over, are we
We're not gonna
restricting
plant,
public access? If
We're
we have
gonna-
the right to do that.
we're gonna spread seed mix where it was before, because the prior plan, can you go back to I don't have
I
it.
understand we're restoring the prior
Yep.
condition
Yep.
prior to the.
If I
work.
restore prior condition, they
That
can't,
work was done with a permit.
they can't stop me from restoring.
I'm sorry, what was that?
They can't stop me from restoring because I disturbed, I'm just restoring. So
Okay.
that's an entitlement. They can't make me put in a roadway that I'm never, ever gonna use. But they can make me, I don't even know if they probably could make me restore it. And so we restore to the prior condition, and it's, in my opinion, by right.
Okay,
But anything else, all uses of those roads by all the abutters, believe it or not, is by right, as long as it's in common and you don't act in an exclusive manner. And the problem is, so I think somebody asked, does the public have the right to use it? They do, I believe, but I could never convey the roads to the town because the DCR will never give up the
Right.
interest.
Right, so that shouldn't be blocked right now, is that what you're telling me? Right.
I don't think it's supposed to, but if nobody can force me to take it down because we didn't do anything and it's not part of our project. So, we're kind of doing that a little bit.
So is all the debris and dumping that we've seen on the site, is that just from that former owner? Or is it from people driving into the property and dumping?
So there are piles. So I actually had some pictures where you have piles of, it looked to me like gravel fill. Like it didn't look dirty, but it was like a big pile. Oh, you'll see junk too.
Yeah.
And, I mean, you know how it is when you have a big open field and people can drive there, they tend to bring refrigerators and they dump.
So I'm just wondering, do you really, I like the idea of having some more tasteful posts in a chain, the chain for fire,
Yeah.
whether it's an ox.
We
block or
plan on-
whatever, but
And we plan on asking permission to do that.
Yeah,
Because we had said that to Mr. Romeo, we would ask for permission to do that. But like, I can't force anybody and I can't force the removal of that trailer and I can't force those things to come down and be able to put up the others. But we're gonna ask, like, why would DCR say no if it's a drive-through and they can access? I don't understand. There doesn't seem to be any legitimate reason to say no.
Okay. You know,
Thank you, yeah.
Jeremiah, have you any questions for this?
Yeah, nothing further.
Right out, okay. Okay, I'm gonna open it up to the public. Please address all your questions to the chair. State your name and address before asking your question. I believe Mr. Romeo, do you have a question? I think, yeah, you were first here.
I do, Mr. Chairman. Thank you. Tom Romeo, owner 253 Havel Street. Thank you. I actually had a few questions that I think were partly answered. I guess I just want some clarification if possible. Under the yield plan, I think that council indicated that there is no waivers necessary. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, so none of the waivers that are asked for in the open space development are asked for, so the 150-foot radiuses and all that are not needed?
Sure, so I'll explain. So when you do the OSRD, you request waivers because the whole intent is to create lots that are much smaller than what's required. But so the yield plan and the OSRD plan are two totally separate animals. So under the yield plan, which is a conventional plan, it shows full compliance with all dimensional requirements of the RA district.
Okay,
But-
no, I appreciate it. That's really all my question. I understand the other aspect of it. So as far as the health regulations, conservation regulations, those are all within our bylaws?
So yes, so for the yield plan, you can't cross a wetland. It's called a limited project because when you are going to, especially subdivisions, it's a policy, I think it was enacted in 97, and it's a policy that says anytime you want to access an upland, it's called a limited project, and then you're entitled to actually cross that wetland, which is a couple of times occurs within that yield.
Yep.
So that is something that we are entitled to do, and that doesn't require a planning board waiver. It requires relief, as you know, Mr. Romeo, you sat on the board for years, Conservation Commission for years. For as far as Title V, we meet all Title V. That isn't a problem. We have to meet Board of Health requirements at the local and state level. That we can't waive.
No, okay, so as far as the 22 lots that are shown in the yield plan, they all pass perk tests and they're all within conservation rules?
So we have not passed perk tests because you don't perk each of the lots. You generally go out and test the material in general areas, and we have, but we haven't had witnessed perks because the season doesn't open yet, and we'll do that at definitive.
Okay. So I appreciate that answer. So you had actually made the statement earlier that you have no rights to do anything to Amber Road, and DCR won't let you. Is that the case?
No, I have rights to restore the road, but I can't alter it. I can't block people from accessing it. But I mean, I absolutely, like we spoke about, we can restore the road, but anything else, like removing
Okay.
that trail. Yeah, okay.
No, I understand. So I guess I'm a little confused, a little perplexed here. On your yield plan, you show Amber and Priscilla Road being developed, and then you say you don't have any rights to do anything to Amber or Priscilla. So
Because
I
yep,
guess,
I
I guess let me, if I could finish my question. I guess my question is, how can a yield plan show 22 house lots on roadways that you can't improve?
Sure, I can explain. So what I mean is, I can't, I have no, our actual final subdivision plan will have absolutely nothing to do with Amber. We aren't applying for relief from DCR to do anything with Amber Road, so I don't have the right to do anything to Amber Road because I haven't applied for the permit. I have the pertinent right, which is absolutely undeniable, to be able to use those roadways to develop any subdivision roadway. That's granted in the deed, it's granted in the indenture that I provided to the board. But what is required in order to do that is to simply apply to DCR, and then you have to subscribe to certain road construction requirements, which is something that had been done when the initial permit was issued. So I just have to renew that permit because it's currently lapsed.
Yeah, I guess, you know, my understanding from DCR, of the conversations I had with DCR was they were, obviously less than happy with the current owners of the properties, and they were reluctant to issue any construction permits. So, I mean, maybe you have better luck and maybe you can get construction permits, but I'm just confused that you can show a yield plan showing 22 house lots and develop property when you don't even have a permit from DCR to do it. That's kind of confusing to me.
And I agree, it is confusing, but it is exact same situation as subdivision approval. I don't have your subdivision approval for the yield plan. I merely show I can comply. With regard to DCR, I show you that I have the unfettered, excluded, in common use and right to develop all of those roadways. So I do need a construction permit. DCR cannot deny me the right to that permit. They can simply require bonding or something to ensure that the roads would be completed if started. That probably is something they regret not having done in the past.
You also made the statement, Council, related to that even if you were to develop Amber Road on the yield plan, that the town, excuse me, the state would never give up rights. And so I guess the question would be, who would maintain those roadways?
Yeah, that would be, so I don't know what North Reading's position is, but in any town where you don't permit the public to utilize a road, you are not allowed under finance law. Massachusetts finance law does not allow you to maintain the roads and use public money unless the public has the access rights. So if those streets were simply open to the public for passage, then the town could elect to maintain. If the town chose not to, then those streets would be closed to the public and it would be privately maintained by whomever lived on those streets. And I would suggest condominium, and that's how it would be. It would be essentially, it couldn't be a gated community because I have to allow DCR access, but it would be basically not a public street.
Yeah, I would suggest to the planning commission that certainly, I don't think that you're showing 22 lots when you have all these unanswered questions related to access, maintenance, rights to build. There's a lot more questions than answers related to all that. Just in the yield plan.
And I
That's
think
my
I
own
answered
opinion.
all the questions, but I mean, I told you
think
they have the right.
Okay. Well, you just brought up a gated community because you said, like you said, you're not sure who can even maintain the roadways, that they
No,
wouldn't even be open to the public. So
I did not say that.
the question also comes up. Okay, the question also comes up about related to the public having access to these walking trails on these public ways. By your own statement, they're not allowed to, but no one's going to stop them. So talk about a policing nightmare. And I mean, you have an open space where you have conjoined properties and state rights of way, and you can't walk here, you can walk there. I don't know how you're going to police that.
Absolutely none of that's true. It isn't going to be a gated community because I said you can't have a gated community because I can't lock it out. But notwithstanding any of that, this particular project and this particular owner has the full right to develop those roads. It is simply about
I agree.
the child state title, that's all. And whether or not the town wants to maintain it, it's up to the town.
Yeah, Well, like I said, I think there's a lot more questions related to the yield plan than, there's another question about the vernal pool located off of, next to my property. You show the roadways awful close to that vernal pool. Does that meet all the wetlands, criteria?
I do not show the roadways anywhere near the roadways in our final plan do not show in the vernal pool. We actually have missed every buffer on purpose. We are trying to preserve wetlands because that's the intent of the OSRD.
No,
So
I'm looking at the yield plan right now, but I can see that the vernal pool, to me, I mean, I don't have a scale. Maybe John can answer how close that right of way is to the vernal pool.
And again, that's because of the locations of the DCR rights of way. And if we were to come in, because we would have to come before the board with regard to those roads and they wanted them to shift, it is possible that the DCR rights of way would have to shift and it would have to use a portion of other people's property. However, I believe that those rights of way as they exist, I'd have to go back and look at the vernal pool. I'm not 100% sure how close it is either. I can't answer the question. I'd have to go back. You could show it to me. You could show it to me. But our subdivision roadway does not even come close to any buffer on purpose. We maintain 100 feet.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at your yield plan and literally the roadway looks within feet of the vegetated wetland. So I'm a little confused related to the vernal pool.
I don't know. I have to.
Okay. No, I just wanted to bring that to your attention. That's all.
We would see relief. That's basically it. There you go. Oh, you know how you can make it, you can zoom. Yeah, no worries, I do this. And then we come in and do this. So I think, oh, this is the yield. Okay, one sec. I'm sorry, 1 second, I'm just navigationally challenged. Here we go. So I believe it's right here, right? That's it. So here's the vernal, this area here.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, it's possible that the Conservation Commission, I think it's still outside of a certain area, but if the Conservation Commission, can I finish? If the Conservation Commission wanted us to move it over, it really isn't a problem.
It has to be 100 feet. It has to be 100 feet from the vernal pool. Like, that's not 100 feet.
You can get special relief, but yes, you have to be a distance away from the vernal pool. And if we had to move that roadway, you can, because that's not the DCR property, that's the other lots. And you can see that the project can actually have the roadway extend back and come over. It's about realigning the roadway, and you can move it to accomplish the 100 feet.
Well, I would just think that the submitted yield plan would take that into account and be correct. I guess it's not, but okay.
We have no intention of building this plan, but it's pretty clear that that roadway can do an angled turn and avoid the 100-foot. Because it's a 50, you can see the 50-foot buffer around the projects. I mean, it can move.
Well, I know I know. I mean, I mean, I'm not trying to be rude, but you know, when you submit a yield plan, it's rudimentary that you have to stay away from the buffer zone. I mean, how can you submit a yield plan that's not correct?
Well, you can actually get relief, and the plan is not incorrect. You just don't like it, but I understand.
Well, no, you actually can't submit a yield. You are not allowed under the bylaw to submit a yield plan that requests any waivers or relief. It's spelled out. No, it's actually spelled out. It's full conformance of all zoning, subdivision regulations, health regulations, wetland regulations, all applicable requirements under section D, page 4. Absolutely 100%. There's zero waivers on the yield plan.
It says compliance. I don't believe you can't get relief.
Full conformance of all zoning, subdivision regulations, health regulations, wetland regulations, and other applicable requirements. The proponent shall have the burden of proof.
I agree. I'm telling you that that means compliance. And if the regulations permit you to seek a permit, you are entitled to do so because it is deemed to be in compliance.
No, it says under section 6, page 8, the yield plan must comply with the following. All community planning rules and regulations, full compliance with all zoning bylaws, require no variances.
Again,
Under
this
section
is not, again, this isn't, we can agree to disagree. The board can answer what it wants. I can't argue.
Well, I'm just reading the rules. That's all I'm doing.
Yeah, I don't disagree, but you're not reading them properly. It says no variance of weight. It says no variance of the zoning regulations, which means I can't come to them with a 20,000 square foot lot because that requires a variance. That's a violation.
Okay.
It doesn't say, by the way, you can't request a waiver under subdivision rules and regulations.
It does, Council, under section D. It absolutely positively, it says full conformance with all zoning, comma, subdivision regulations, comma, health regulations, comma, wetlands regulations, and any other applicable requirements.
Again, a waiver is still compliance if the board deems it to be in the best interest of the community.
Well,
It is, but we show a waiver-proof plan. With regard to the wetland, again, it doesn't say anything about not being able to seek relief under the wetland plan. You have to be in conformance, you can't violate. But you can, for example, you can fill wetland when you show a yield plan. You absolutely can. And that's kind of the same.
Absolutely, if it's within the bylaws, but to get a waiver on a vernal pool is not within the bylaws.
Vernal pools.
You know, Mike.
That's not even,
Yeah.
well,
Well, I just want to be, sorry, Tom, this is Dave, Redlock. I'm kind of siding with you on one thing. I mean, a vernal pool is a big no-no. So what you're raising is, I think, is factual because you can't just assume you're going to put a house spread over a buildable area right over a vernal pool. You don't move vernal pools. That's just the way it works.
You don't. We wouldn't.
You stay totally away from them. And where the wetlands, you can do some trade-offs. I'm gonna move these, I'm gonna do that. You can't move vernal pools.
This is not a crossing of a vernal pool.
I get it, but I'm just saying what Mr. Romeo is pointing out though is the yield plan needs to be realistic in as much as it meets the guidelines that he's describing. And I'm not an expert on this. It's like, this is the first application I've seen here in my 5 years. So this is new to me too, just getting up on this bylaw, but I mean, it does pass the logic test that the yield plan should represent a true actual plan that could be built, you know?
This, in my opinion, this actually does.
Not that lot, and I'm not saying the rest of it, but that lot and that road kind of concerns me, and how does that change the yield plan? You know?
For example, I can move the roadway and the home, I don't believe is within 100 feet to the vernal pool. I'd have to go back and measure everything, but I don't believe it is within the 100 foot. And then as far as the roadway goes, you can put roadways under the limited project requirements. You can put roadways within buffer. I'm not saying I'm going to fill the vernal. See, this is the big issues. Apologize. I'm not filling a vernal pool because you can't fill a vernal pool.
It's Army Corps.
Yeah, you can't, but you cannot fill a vernal pool. That's verboten. You can fill wetlands under limited projects, and I believe you can also build within the buffer to a vernal pool if you demonstrate protections. So, you know, it is not an unbuildable plan. Can I move the roadway? Yes, I can. Can I alter
Well,
it?
to Mr. Romeo's point though, why don't you?
Because I know that I can actually do this. He's not really right. It's like I show filling of wetland to be able to create the roadways too, because it's a limited project and you're allowed to do that. And that's very common. And if this were a subdivision road, it'd be passed. Can I move the roadway? If the board's telling me, look, just move the roadway for us, will we do it? Sure. I mean, we can do it. It's the yield plan. And I can do it.
Danielle, did council address this very issue?
We didn't ask about this. I can ask if you
I
want.
think it's probably, Mr. Chairman, I just wonder if it's not a bad idea to ask the question, because I think what Mr. Romeo brings up is a really good point. It's, those bylaws were written for a reason. They, as I don't have them in front of me right here, what Mr. Romeo is reading off, but I take him at his word, that's verbatim what it says. Council can confirm that, and it just seems to me that it doesn't leave you a lot of wiggle room. Like, you need to do a yield plan that conforms to all these different functions of the town, the CPC, the Board of Health, whatever. But I just want to make sure that check mark is checked. And if it changes, Attorney Mann, the way the yield plan physically looks right now, perhaps that might be the case. But I think we owe it to the town that, and the residents around here, that the yield plan actually is accurate.
I believe this is buildable, and I believe it's important, because I can see,
And I
but,
don't think,
you know what?
I
I
believe
have-
you do, I just want to make sure.
But I also have to go back and look at because what he's reading now doesn't say that you can't do this. But I have to go back to look at the bylaws for the Conservation Commission relative to for intrusion into the buffer only for a vernal pool. And to the extent I determine that, it requires a variance or some other superlative relief, then we literally will move the roadway, and I will show you that I can still do this plan. I can still have 22 lots. I can do that. I mean, there's a lot of room. It's 31
I
acres.
disagree with that.
Yeah, and I will,
But again,
I will do that.
It's a valid point.
Yep, no, relative, the language being quoted, not so much, but if the vernal pool is, if I'm not permitted to act within the buffers, then I need to demonstrate that I am outside of them, and I will do that. I will look into it, because I really did not look into the buffer to the vernal pool, other than knowing about limited projects, because that's something I do a lot.
Right.
But I will.
And
I'll
I've
get
learned,
back.
because I've run into that on some of my projects, but they're like two different animals, and I know John, like, they're just two different animals. One's more flexible, the other's not
Yeah,
flexible.
Oh, yeah, vernal pools are not flexible. You cannot fill them.
Can't be killing my spotted salad.
And
Oh,
I-
Lord, they're not the real spotted.
Spotted turtles too.
I don't think that 100 foot is valuable though.
Right, on that, yeah.
It's not 100 foot. Full time. It's up to 100 feet, but it's not. Always outside of.
Right.
I believe it, but I'm gonna, you know what though,
But
honestly, I need
I hear
to,
you.
I can't make that assertion definitively. So I can make the assertion that if there's relief available for the Concom, then it is, but I'd rather go back, do the research, submit something to you, and if I have to, give you a new plan, because I'd rather provide comfort.
And Ryan, I was just pointing out that it was being mentioned that, that could be limited project, it's not, vernal's different, so that's all I was pointing out that.
Yeah, you don't do a bunch kind of, well,
Yeah.
you just don't what.
But, yeah.
Okay,
I still have a few more points if I could, Mr. Chair.
okay, go ahead.
Thank you. One of the board members, and I didn't get the name, and I apologize, did bring up another point that I wanted to ask, about the single family houses towards the perimeter of the site, especially where they abut residentially zoned properties. So obviously, when we talk about the 4 multifamily homes that are abutting my property, I'm the only direct abutter in this whole proposed development that abuts 4 two-family houses. Was there any thought by the developer to put some of these multifamilies off of Charles Street?
No.
Oh.
We might, I mean, at this point, this is the way we've designed it, I apologize. At this point, this is the way we've designed it with the multifamilies out in this area. Because we condensed the road. It's possible we'll end up putting a multi up top, it's possible.
Well, I just think it's fundamentally unfair that one abutter has 4 multifamilies and nobody else throughout this 33 acres is in a direct abutter, and I have 4 of them. I mean, talk about unfair.
that has a maximum buffer on that side also.
I mean, the reason, I mean, there is a lot of buffer in that area, and you can see those lots are much larger than the lots up on Charles to be able to give the open space the way it is. I mean, you know.
Well, I don't disagree.
It
I don't
isn't
disagree.
capped.
It might be a
isn't capped.
best. I'm sorry.
It's okay. I mean, we thought that this was actually one of the more proper layouts because of where the duplexes are located and separated. Like we were trying to distance ourselves from the other butter across the street, who was actually, you know, same probably distance home-wise, by putting up the buffer. You know, we thought that because there was such a large grade change between your property and the property down here, I mean, the grade change is tremendously different because we have to meet the grade for the road, so the homes are kind of low as well. So you have that big, what is it, that it's just a big grade change behind a little ledge outcropping, I don't know, around the back, but that property, you know, you have your house, Mr. Romeo, that's here, and then you have a big hill and a lot of trees, and then you have it going down, and now you go to our road where the duplexes will be located. So there's a decent buffer.
I don't disagree of the grade change. I guess my concern is obviously property values. My property value is going to be affected more than anybody else's negatively. I mean, if you think about it, I have 4 multifamilies abutting me. Like I said, was there any thoughts to maybe putting those ones off of Charles Street, where John's proposing where he's going to put his house? Couldn't we put some multifamilies up there?
Again, these lots were bigger. This is why we did it. I mean, I can't speak to this now. I mean, I don't think it, you know, as far as impact, you know, we thought that there wasn't going to be a lot of impact because there is no visual component. No matter what, the streets are going to have the same exact number of cars. So where they're located isn't that kind of an impact. So I don't know what the impact could possibly be. And I don't know how.
Okay.
Yeah,
I would just rely on everyone's, you know, personal lives. If would you move next to would you buy a house next to 4 duplexes or 4 single families? You know, I mean, you can't say it doesn't negatively affect my property value. Just making a point.
I don't believe it does, but I'm not an appraiser.
Well, under the bylaw, on your new proposal, you show one of the houses, the first house off of Lucas. Is that facing Havel Street, or how is that aligned? It looks like it's facing Havel Street.
That'll be rotated towards the rear of the property.
So the back is facing Havel Street? I'm not.
These are just, all these are building envelopes in an envelope per house. I mean, it's possible that it'll end up being, I can't tell you what it's going to be. It's not definitive. When we come to definitive, I'll have all that for you. This is literally envelopes. Like I said,
it does affect the end number, because if that house is facing Havel Street, like it appears that it is on this plan, then it has to, it's not part of the open space development. It has to abide by current zoning if it's got its frontage on Havel Street. That's all I'm saying.
and it's part of the open space residential subdivision.
Not if it has its frontage on Havel Street. If it has its frontage on Havel Street, it has to have the 40,000 square foot lot, according to the bylaw.
That's quite possible. I don't know.
Well, I do. It does.
I don't doubt that you do. If it's necessary, it won't face Haverhill. I mean, we're not going to do anything that's going to jeopardize the lots.
Well, that would change the number of units, the housing units. So that once again, it comes down to the plan. It would change the number of housing units. Well, yes, because
this is the concept plan, Mr. Romeo. The units are set by yields, and then with regard to these, I can change the components. That's the point. All we're trying to get through with these particular projects.
I agree. I agree.
We show this, yeah.
I agree. I agree. I just brought up a point. I totally agree with you. And just briefly, and I know I took up a lot of time and I apologize. Briefly, I just wanted to bring up the fact of, I think you guys, the board has a full understanding of what me and my family have gone through, not only the last 30 years with the current owner, but more specifically the last 10 years. When he started construction, Amber Road used to be a single lane dirt road maintained by the town. town would grade it every year, they would plow it every snowstorm, they would fix potholes. The town assumed all responsibility on Amber Road. We enjoyed that for the time of our ownership since 1961. Since 2013, when the roadway was clear cut, the town said, we're not maintaining Amber Road anymore. It's up, Halchuk has to, the state permit said that he had to. Halchuk never did anything. Once again, left me in the lurch. I had to do everything. Obviously, you guys, most of the people knew my mother. My mother was handicapped. She was a widow, and she couldn't even get up her own driveway because Halchuk had put an excavator in the middle of the driveway and tore up the driveway and left it. Literally left it. He sued my mother. Took 2 years, $75,000 later to gain access off of Hale Street, to use Amber Road, to develop Amber Road, to pave Amber Road. He testified in court that he was going to pave it, put drainage in, fix my mother's driveway with pavement, change the grade to make it easier for her to get in, to improve the whole area. Well, here we are, where now this proposed good neighbor is going to put a development in. I'm going to get 4 two-family houses in the back of me. I'm going to get a road regraded with gravel that's going to wash out after the first year, and I have to maintain the road now until the end of time. That's where I'm at. So put yourself in my shoes from what I have now and what I had before this owner did what he did, and now these new owners are leaving me high and dry. Got nothing. I now have to maintain Amber Road that people are going to continue to use. The public's going to continue to use. I have to plow it. I got to pick the potholes. I got to worry about the underground spring that he created. That literally the road is a sponge in the middle of the summertime when there's a drought. The roadway's wet. And the answer that I got the other day on the telephone call was we're going to regrade it. We're gonna do what we can, and we're out of there. That's basically it. When we can't do anything else for you. We're just trying to do what we're supposed to do, and that's it. So I asked the board to put themselves in my shoes. Look where I am. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Tom. Yeah, I know that there's we're aware of all the difficulties that you went through. Unfortunately, the person that owns the property now is a real responsible person, and we don't really have access to him. And we hate to hold, it looks like these new people are gonna at least keep their word and do as much fixing as they can. And I would just encourage them to take a look at what they can do. And again, when the definitive comes in, we might be able to get, we'll see what they can do to try to make up as much as they can for what's gone wrong here. So, is there anybody else who would like to be heard on this project at this point? Okay, hearing none. Obviously, we're going to continue this. We got a couple of things. I think we have a couple of items that are run by town council to make sure that we are compliant with this, and you may want to take a look at this and maybe do a little redraw, give us a year for him that just minus this issue here.
Oh, I'm absolutely gonna look at it immediately.
Yeah. Okay, make sure that we have met the requirements of the bylaw. So we'll put it back on,
April 2nd is our next meeting.
April 2nd. We should be able to get our opinions from town council and also.
And we're gonna do this immediately, so I'll work tomorrow with John, with Brendan, so that I can turn around the plan, and
Right.
then I'll send it over to Ms. Big Night so that she can send it to you.
To us on our iPads. Yeah.
100%, yeah,
Yeah.
I'll take care of that
This is,
right away.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
I'll ask those questions I'll give town council a call in the morning, just to add those couple follow-up questions,
Yeah.
just with regard to the.
Yeah.
Well,
That'll also give you a chance, to read the town council letter that we got.
I will send that to you now.
But that also may, I think that's gonna give you a couple of other areas you need to mess with some, because, when you read through it, so,
That's perfect.
yeah, go into that, because
And then we're gonna meet with, like Mr. Romeo on site, and then Ms. Arthur, we're gonna have that meeting as well, so that'll be good to have, because all we did is have one conversation.
yeah, because my lot 5 and 6 that I didn't like, he didn't like it either, so.
I know, well, that's why I said, we have a choice.
Yeah, so we gotta take a look at that.
Okay.
As well.
I definitely will.
They have to make some other changes there, so. Okay.
Pierce? Yes. Motion. Move the committee planning commission vote to continue the public hearing for 7 Charles Street, 249 April Street, until Tuesday, April 2nd, 2024 at 8 p.m.
I second that.
Have a motion in a second. All those in favor, roll call vote, Jeremiah, I'll say you.
Aye.
And Ryan? Aye. Dave?
Aye.
And Jeff?
Aye.
And I as well.
Thank you very much. Appreciate your time today.
Thank you. Thank you. What's the guy? Yeah, what happened with you? This guy, what Yeah, what?
Remember, then you'll, if it's, I don't know, but we'll probably know very,
So it's still ongoing litigation around.
Is
well,
so,
I think the litigation is all done, but the litigation did more to create headaches than it did to.
Obviously, he's not stuck with restoring the amber.
No. No, because the Amber belongs to DCR.
In the state.
And
They can modify it, but it's allowed to.
Well, yeah, but
They could. They've chosen not to.
They've chosen not to require.
DCR should have gone after them to make them restore it. But then DCR didn't, I mean, but that was why one of the things I did, we really ought to talk to DCR. And they said they would, so I'm gonna hold to that, let them contact DCR and see if DCR can do something about what's happened there. They normally gave them an open permit, they never came and inspected anything, so.
We actually tried to get them to come in and inspect.
We tried,
It was a
yeah,
whole-
we chased them
it
for
was
a while,
big
trying
effort a number of years ago.
you
And they actually came out one time and they said, yeah, we see what's going on, looks like it's consistent with construction activity, and that's it, we're not
Yeah.
doing anything more on this.
And yeah, we called them, so you guys really ought to come take a look at what happened.
Yeah, it looks like a bomb
And
bed.
they did, yeah, they didn't, so we did try,
Over a number of years.
yeah,
Oh, that's interesting.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, it's been more than that, but sometimes. Okay, what have I got left here? I have a lot of time here, so.
You need actually,
Oh, I'm just gonna pull it back.
No, we did everything except.
You've done everything.
Okay, well,
And if you wanna do that on Monday,
yeah, so Ryan wasn't here, so when we were just talking about the MBTA, like, since we're going to be meeting with planning board, I'm sorry, with select board, that we should probably just wait till Monday. We'll have a lot more information in council, stuff, all that.
now, will we be, obviously we're gonna be on their meeting, so we're gonna be,
it'll be a joint meeting.
you're gonna be.
Yes,
So the
with nothing
question
else
is,
on it.
one of the things you were trying to do is make sure it gets on to the, June town meeting.
That was actually, so when we had talked initially a few months back about targeting the June town meeting, I had been working on that kind of as a guideline, and so the warrant closes March 18th, and so I was concerned that if you did still want it on June, that we needed to kind of rush it, but they would take it late if you decide you want to do it. It's not, I mean, it's on their list of possible warrant articles to expect. The warrant doesn't really truly close until they close it, but in terms of submittals, I was just nervous that if we waited too long, if you still wanted to do it for June, that we might.
I think that they close like 15th of May or something like that.
Yeah, they have much more time, and
Yeah,
then, so it's not a problem for us to, basically I just put this on, before we really have a meeting finalized on Monday. We can certainly wait to talk about it then. I put in a little bit of supplementary information, some
Yep.
outstanding issues we had been talking about, the issue that had been raised after the state review of how to count the flood zone, has been completely dealt with.
Can you explain that to, I
yeah.
remember getting that a couple weeks back, or
Yeah.
when?
Okay, so here's what happened. So the model that they give us requires us to, we're not allowed to count as eligible developable area, as we're required to calculate how much the property could yield. as an estimate, we're required to build something that could, not build something, zone for something that could potentially yield 750 units. Now, in order to show that, they ask us to put the zoning district through a model, and the model has certain things that it eliminates. You're not allowed to count wetlands toward the developable area.
Vernal pools.
Definitely not. You're not allowed to count flood zone. There are a number, you can't count any public lands, rights of way, things like that. So the model excludes all of that. So once the GIS department, you know, makes a shape file from the GIS, and they eliminate all of those layers. The state actually gives us the information, we run it through our GIS, we cut out all of those things, and it spits out a land area that's left, that's actually considered developable. Because if we spit out a land area that was full of, you know, flood zone and wetlands, that wouldn't be realistic. We'd never want to develop that. So in order to make sure that we were fully compliant, so different types of land get treated a little bit differently in the model. There's an excluded land category and there's a sensitive land category. And for sensitive land, they assume that you can develop a little bit, but not all of it. For totally excluded land, it's completely eliminated. Now, flood zone was not completely excluded, it's just sensitive, but they don't want us counting it. So they asked us to just adjust the model to show that we were definitely not counting that as developable area. And we did it, and it didn't make any difference in
what-
the estimates.
Those two classifications you gave, so what's
Yes.
sensitive and what's the other one?
Excluded.
Excluded.
Yeah.
What is excluded?
Excluded means it gets completely cut out of
You can't
the,
use,
can I use it?
Meaning it's what, though? I
you
mean,
can't use it in your
I
calculation.
get that, but what do they term
Excluded wetlands.
Just what?
Yeah,
Okay.
flood-
Wetlands
Yeah,
are totally
water.
excluded.
But flood zone, things like that.
Water,
So they're sensitive.
Yeah, okay.
yeah, wetlands and water, rights of way, public lands,
But
there were a few
sensitive is
categories.
just floodplain.
Yeah, because you could, in theory, develop in a floodplain with a permit. I don't know why they
You
didn't.
can develop it way as long as you get compensation.
Yeah, you can, but I don't know why they didn't just ask us to put that in the excluded category from the beginning. It would have been easy enough to do it.
Yeah.
I don't know, but it didn't make any difference.
So is this model a town-wide model that they GIS do for you? And then, so that when you come to and say, I want to go right here on 62, they're like, yeah, that kind of fits or whatever. Or are you talking about they did this model just for that parcel or strip along 62 from Mullins on?
They gave us, the whole town to work with. We decide what's the district, so because we were targeting 2 parcels only, that's all we did. We didn't do the whole town. We just did these 2 parcels so that we could cut out, the, you know, excluded land area, the sensitive land area, et cetera, and put that into the model. If we wanted to do additional districts, we would have also taken the townwide information, but we would have just applied it to whatever parcels were in
Yeah, but if
the.
we were gonna do that, we have to have like 125 acre parcel, and then we could have any number of 5 acre parcels to get to the number.
That's true, yeah.
But
Yeah.
that doesn't make any real, you know, in our particular case, it makes no sense because you have everything we need in one spot, so.
But also wouldn't that, if, again, reading the law, you know, 0.5 miles, if you're not at least trying to attempt to get close to the T and you're just pulling 5 acre lots from sporadically around the town that are 10 miles from the T or whatever, that doesn't make any sense.
So that's why, that's the beauty of the Edgewood location, and this is just, it's almost custom made for what we're trying to do here. We probably have the easiest, of all the towns that I've heard of and the people I've spoken to, we probably have the easiest job of it because we have it all right there, already all done.
And what is the distance to the T?
2.1 miles from Martins to the Wilmington line.
Yeah.
But I don't disagree on the lot area. I just keep, I'm a broken book. I just think you just saw what the act that the zoning, sorry, the Affordable Homes Act, what's next? And that's all I'm just saying is when you bend the knee, you know,
ADU, that's what's next.
yeah, so we're, you know.
They're gonna dump, the state's gonna try to dump ADU.
Well, they are, but you know, you are allowed to, so we're back to the table again. So the whole meeting with the SB almost is like moot now, you know, because, you know, we kind of have to draft a bylaw now.
Yeah.
But it's just unfortunate because at what point do towns have any, ability to create their zoning? And it's becoming basically a state, planning board. So are we here just for A&Rs and stuff? Cause it's basically the state's doing everything now, so they're telling us where we need to have affordable housing, how much we have to have.
I think we had a real, we just really don't have the land anymore and stuff, but if we had a real subdivision application that you could get your teeth into, a real,
Right.
a real project. Everything we have now is kind of funky and doesn't really fit right. It's,
Right. But the town, the state's gonna be careful because the state might be, contributing to what might create enough people against sewer, because if the state's forcing down all this development on the town, and that translates into a lot of costs in all different areas, but so in these,
But you're right, we can't
some
have,
people in earnest in town, in the select board, whatever, coming to push a new sewer thing, they're facing an uphill battle
yeah,
because
I
of what,
agree, I agree.
they're not, meaning the state's not helping North.
In this particular
Get some-
case, our
get sewer
septic
passed.
system is like a buffer for us.
Yeah, well,
It's gonna protect us from some of
and I
these
think,
things.
and I have to say, I think, I think I'm on that side too. I feel like it is a protective thing.
They're not gonna-
So that's our one thing we have, like,
They can't violate
they
the Board of
can't
Health.
make you put in sewer. That's the one thing, luckily that the state can't do. So I think a lot of residents, what?
We can't,
Yeah.
and we can't do it what, we can't do it what.
It's a next year. Did I ask you about this slide with the 980 units now permitted under construction? And then the proposed by right 812.
Yeah.
So that area, how many units are already there and being built? Is
So
that the
permitted,
908?
already permitted and under construction. Okay, so 908 will be the total once Pulte is done building.
Okay.
Right
And that includes
now-
Edgewood and.
Edgewood and Martin's Landing, so I mean, Edgewood has been built out for a long time and that's at 406 units. So those units.
And that's fully done, right?
That's fully done.
Okay.
The Pulte project, they are about 2/3 done, and I don't know the total number of units that are occupied right now.
A lot more buildings.
They're like 50, I think, Danielle, they're like 50, a building, and don't they have like 7 master plan, maybe 5 built or something like that?
I can't remember
in that
how many
range.
they have.
The last time I was there, I thought there was only one left.
One left, and then that's for all I
At
know.
this point, there may be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so, I'm sorry, so those are 400 and,
So when Pulte is done, it will be 502 when
Okay.
Pulte is done.
okay, so that gets you the 908. So does that mean we already meet the 750 that the state wants?
So the
That's what I'm
750,
confused by.
so we don't have to actually have 750. We just have to have capacity for 750. We have to show that we have capacity for 750.
Don't have to build anything, that's the thing.
Right.
But we already have 908, so you're saying like it's just, we're just creating a zoning district just so we're
Yeah,
gonna down to build them.
Brian,
someone
just to add a little though, and this is where Danielle can help me here, but there is a few things, one is for future, and this is where you can help me. So on the Rita Mullen, and see if I've got it right, that's part of this, right?
Mm-mm.
It isn't, I thought it was.
No,
Okay,
because
so that's
everything
good.
public is excluded.
I was just gonna say that when you were describing that, does that include that? So, okay, so that answers that.
Yeah.
And then what, if the two things that we have to do with this, because I agree, like, we're at these numbers, so it's the most logical location, but, I back up to, again, bending the knee, like, when we are not 0.5 acres, so to the letter of the law, we don't comply with the law, so why can you still make us? That's my own issue, just like, why does North Reading have to follow laws that we don't, comport to? And then, the other 2 items are with the zoning changes, the by right part. Again, when you're already built out, it's not as much an issue, but the other one is the age one. So that's the part I don't understand, like, if Pulte's all 50 and over, that means that entire giant 500, well, not count, it just becomes now multifamily. So people don't realize, like, what does that mean for schools?
Does it change it or does that mean?
No, it doesn't change anything that's there. So Pulte, so that zoning today doesn't restrict age.
I
Pulte,
thought it did.
no, the
No?
zoning doesn't. So
What's
Pulte,
the zone? No, that's
so
the last
Pulte
thing.
came in with a project. And they said, we want to build age restricted housing. That's in their own
Yeah, we didn't tell.
homeowners, so their
Oh,
own
so
condo
meaning
association.
that's what they sell to is.
That's
okay,
what they choose
It's
to
not,
do.
it's
Yeah.
not zoned that way.
Right.
Yeah,
Now,
because what you're trying to do is attract upper end.
Yeah, but like, so guys, like,
Keeping kids out, they.
well, they can't now, once we pass this.
No, they couldn't.
Because they want family units though.
That's-
No, but in order to realize that, they would have to start from scratch. They would need a new project permitted, they would have to take everything down in order to realize this other
So
zoning.
back up and explain it,
Okay,
because
okay,
this is
yes.
helpful.
Okay, so what we have there now, they're not allowed to do anything under the new zoning unless they knock it down and re-permit
Yeah.
it, start from scratch. So what they have now happens to be age restricted because that was an agreement they came to with the town when they bought the property. They chose to build it that way. They chose to make the offer that way.
That's how they
Not
permitted it.
That's how it's been permitted,
Yeah.
but it's not a requirement
It
in
wasn't.
the zoning.
Right.
Now, if they wanted to now take advantage of the other zoning district overlay that's on there, which provides slightly differently, they have to now follow all the rules in that new district, and they have to start from scratch. Knock every building down, make an application to the town. And when
That
they
changes-
do.
That changes a lot.
So, yeah, so when they do, they also then have to comply with the Aquifer Protection District, which only allows for by right if you're 15% impervious under, and that alone, that 85% open space requirement, that alone makes any project a lower yield than what we have permitted today, because we've already overridden that for the current development.
Yeah.
But a new development,
Especially
they're starting from scratch.
Story on.
They don't get any variances or waivers, so they have a smaller project now. If they want to rebuild that,
That's very helpful, because I did not understand that. I thought it was gonna open it up. I know they have, whatever, 6 buildings somewhat sold out right now. They only got 1 more to go,
they
but
can't do anything else
yeah,
if they're.
well,
gonna
I thought they
continue with
could
the project.
roll over, and start selling,
The state's playing the long game. They're not saying you gotta build these now. They're trying to get places zoned. So
I disagree with that. Warren Healy's, the Baker, when they passed the zoning act, or was it was it the zoning act that Charlie Baker or?
Yeah, that's right.
Anyways, when they passed that in 3A and all that, it was for specifically to zone and to, lead towards that. The Healy administration, especially when you see every speech she makes, it's all about production. They want, so they're getting aggressive, and especially with this new law is all about, really, the backbone of the law is, it's really not ADUs, but it's financing, funding.
Yeah, they put $2 billion aside.
Well,
They help fund development.
Well, every
Houses
house,
built now.
well, also part of the provision is, in houses over the median, sales price, get taxed anywhere between 5% and 2%. So that's a new tax they're gonna put on all home sales.
Yeah.
And so, again, when you live in Massachusetts, you're like, oh, those rich people, but that's a lot of houses in this state, so, that's gonna impact a lot of people, and that goes towards an affordable housing fund. So that gets back to the whole production part, like, I think, you're gonna see.
It was interesting that they took away, the courts basically took away the buyers, the fees that the buyer, realtors get. The 2%
Yeah.
they got,
Yeah,
and then suddenly the next thing you hear is that they want that 2% to go to the state.
Yeah,
Like,
it's-
wait a minute, they're paying attention.
but that's why I don't mean to be argumentative, I'm just saying, but it is about production now, so that's why you, or we, in a way, thwart them perhaps with this stretch along 62, because it's already produced.
Yeah, so I guess that gets back to my original question. So we already have 908 units there. And we're required to zone for 750. Are we basically just zoning
It's
the
just,
area that's already been developed and saying like, we already got it?
yes, with more restrictive zoning than we already.
Yeah, so what would, if someone came in by right, how much available land is there? And how many more units do they add?
None, zero, they would have to start again, they would have
Because
to
that's a terrace down.
tear it down and start again.
My answer basically just rubber stamp a proposal that's like, it's already been done.
The whole
We found
thing, like,
Yeah.
That's the bottom line.
that's.
What do you like that?
It sounds delightful.
Yeah,
I don't know how much.
That wasn't really clear of this whole, I
Well,
guess.
I know, it's been difficult to understand.
so did Daniel explain it to the select board?
But I understand.
Yeah, it was just a little
I mean,
bit
so
of
Pulte did us the biggest
Yeah,
favor.
we're just talking about the select board meeting, like, why did it go so south? Like, maybe they weren't
I
asking
think
the
it was
right
just-
questions, but what I mean is like, with this small little 15-minute dialogue, I've got more, detail than I ever got in the last, year and a half on the whole thing.
This is great.
Not you, but what I mean is now, I find, they're just small details, but I find like, oh, okay. I just completely misunderstood the age change one, I completely misunderstood that.
Okay,
So I don't know if that was
No.
gonna happen Monday or.
Like, that was not conveyed, and that was not.
Your average person just sees that and says, well, you're gonna change the no age restriction, well, that means the entire Pulte development
I
could
know.
go in.
it's so hard to,
Cause I've even
Yeah.
gotten, a person that lives there is reached out to me and asked me like, does this mean the whole thing? And I'm like, I don't know. Yeah,
No,
but I didn't say yes, I said, I don't know, I need to find out.
the owners themselves would need to want to redevelop it. I
They'd
mean,
all have to approve.
Yeah, they have. to
yeah,
put
they
it
would all
down,
have to
start
agree to
all over.
it. I mean, because.
It's never gonna happen.
It'll be okay,
Well,
deal.
It's never gonna happen.
Yeah, so that really does change a lot of things, so,
Totally.
again, I don't change my position as far as not wanting to play ball with the state because of this law. I'm interested to see what the attorney says, because again, I don't understand where, and I know their tendency in council, and to be fair to them, is kind of a little bit of risk averse and all that for the
They
town.
want to protect.
But at the same rate though, like just as an exercise, a legal exercise, like, just tell me personally, even all of a sudden, if there's a law that you don't, it says half mile, and if we're not a half a mile, to me, unless you wanna go change the law, which they could easily do, we all know that, how fast they could do that, make it an emergency or whatever, then say any distance, but we're not 0.5 miles from, and this land is not 0.5 miles, so. And so you can't then go penalize us with their three different, these three different grants or whatever, and then they added more, that's not even legal, like, you can't add stuff to the law after
So
a law's a law.
this is that procedure where we went through with, what was the other thing? Oh, with medical marijuana. The legislature passes something and then they assign to an agency
Still bitter
the
about that.
policy and the
That's
regulation.
executive, that's not legislative.
It's just.
But still, the executive can't change the law, like, they definitely can come up with a
No.
policy, like you
Right, they
said.
come up with.
Those are the
regulations.
guidelines,
I know, and I encountered the same thing, when we were doing the whole land calculation,
Yeah.
for the Elm Street project, the 40B.
That's better.
I was like, wait, but your law says one thing and your regulations actually contradict it. And, and town council would point that out and they would push that forward and the housing appeals committee was like, too bad, we're right. Just,
yeah. Well, it'll be interesting to see what happens, with Milton and the other people that have pushed back on it, because and they're not even, I think we have more.
Older too. Yeah.
Yeah, but what I mean, I think we have more footing, is we're not the half mile, again, it's to me, that's some of the key.
We fall out of the
tenets of the
criteria
law.
until they change it.
Yeah, exactly, if they change it, yeah, we get sucked right in, and then you'd have to just wave the white flag and say, you're right, but I just feel like we're not.
We're not there, so
It's
why
not,
should?
we're not meeting one of the things of the law, so I don't understand why.
I do know town council was asked to address that in the
Yeah.
opinion. So, and I thought I might have seen it come through like tonight, so I will email it out to all of you.
Yeah,
I do think that I should have it at this point, so I'll email it out to all of you and, yeah, we'll talk about it more on Monday. And I'll just say too, like, I have been very embroiled in this just because it's something that, it's being handled by planning offices, and so I've been in it for a long time, and it's not that I'm trying to tell you that you should comply. It would be my recommendation to you, because I think you can do it easily, but whatever you guys decide to do, I'm here to support you in whatever it is that you want to do with this. Whatever you as a board decide is the right direction, I'm certainly not gonna go off in some other direction or give you, I don't mean to give, and I realize it's because I've been so invested in working on this for so long, that I had to be very, immersed in the work of it, but that doesn't mean that I am here to try to convince you that you should act one way or another, or support a town meeting or not, or submit a warrant. I'm here to do what you asked me to do as a board, and I just want to make that clear, because I think that, over the last few months, as I've been working on it, we haven't really talked that much about, I've given you updates, but we haven't really talked about what direction you actually want to take. I've just been like, oh, we have to comply, it's law, we gotta do it. So that's been my kind of how I've responded. But whatever you guys want to do, you know, when Monday comes around, town council, John Eichman, who's been the most involved with us in this for all this time, is going to be the one who's there, which is great. So hopefully you between you and the select board, you'll decide. And, you know, I think at this point, I've done my part as far as, you know, giving you the information, and I'll answer as many more questions as I can or whatever you need me to do. But, it's between you.
Town council's gonna tell us if we got to.
yeah, I know that from my previous conversations with them.
That's why I'm
but-
disappointed, like, I get that, and I understand.
I've also obviously,
But I'd really like to understand, like, from another attorney, Jeremiah, you can speak up if you ever want to. But like, if we don't meet the law, like, I mean, just on the basis of the law, like, do we really have to comply with the law if we don't meet the law? That's like a truly honest answer on it.
Is there any teeth to restrict that, like, since it already meets the requirement that they can't build any more?
Well, they can't unless they choose to knock it down and come back in, right? I
No,
mean,
because each property in itself is already fully developed.
yeah, they can't do anything else.
Yeah.
As it is right now.
They can't, they said they have the right to add.
Not for this. If they wanted to come in and just ask the town for permission and we wanted to decide, you know, whether to give them permission, they could do that, but not related to this.
Okay.
Yeah, this really doesn't give them any right to add on to what's already on the property.
Like,
without knocking it
And I
down.
had to live in those ones, but they something pretty much fully developed anyway.
yeah.
In what scenario might either of those projects decide to
So then.
take everything down and start again? I mean,
I was thinking I knew all this.
Right?
Oh.
Like, that's it.
Yeah.
That's the only way, they all
But it
burn
was-
this dry.
It would still be, it would still be a smaller project.
Yeah,
It wouldn't necessarily be an age project, but it would still be a smaller.
that's the
like-
only thing that would change your.
Right, no, Edgewood
That's
is
what
not,
they're doing, but. They're making it a voluntary act.
It's that parcel in the front.
So.
oh, we still
Well,
want
then there you
that.
go.
So,
We're just mowing,
I feel.
we're just mowing.
so I think what we're gonna, actually put, I have my own idea like that.
We're gonna follow.
Fire station?
If we don't.
Is a leaching field for our sewers.
Yeah.
Well, whose sources?
The one that doesn't cost $150 million. It only costs about 60.
The idea was to put that out we put it out for RFP shortly after we did the RFP for the Pulte property, and no one was interested because we said we didn't want us. So no one bid on it. So we just said, let's just shelve it for a while and in the future, figure out.
What was it, Daniel?
102 Lowell Road, so the state hospital properties that we put out for RFP, so one of them became Pulte, the other one we put out for RFP shortly after that, but with the Pulte property, we said we would we would consider any use. For this one, we said we don't want residential, so no one bid on it.
So
So-
little field on the corner.
That's the,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, no, we're just gonna use that as a discharge.
it's 2.5 acres.
The concept.
All right, we got anything else?
I did want to mention,
Back there. We don't take any money and anybody.
I have a lot of
but our
updates,
land.
Good.
no, just, April 1st, the select board is, expecting to have a, sewer update presentation at their meeting. So I just wanted to pass that along. Kate mentioned it at our economic development committee meeting.
It's still not on the way, but we get.
So just passing it along. I'll probably be going for that, to hear that.
Yeah, on Monday,
It's Monday, April 1st.
probably.
Got it.
Great.
Good.